now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you from right this second until 5:45 tonight. Nearly a full hour full edition of 580 Sports Talk, nearly a full 4 hours. Eventually, I'll get it all out cleanly. We appreciate you for coming and hanging out with us today on this Tuesday. Plenty to get to. Chiefs, Royals, KU, K-State. We are hitting them all on the next edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk some NFL Combine today. In fact, we're going to hear from the Combine. Brett Veach and Andy Reid both spoke today. Lots of stuff from Big Reds. That's coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll hear from Brett Veach at the bottom of this hour. K-State basketball. This will be the last time we speak of this game. Okay? I'm telling you that right now. We are going to get through it. We are going to recap it. We are not going to talk about it again. I'm mad. Like, I don't know who I'm more mad at. K-State, West Virginia basketball, Kerr Kriisa specifically. I'm really not sure. I'm just mad about everything that transpired in that
They're
game.
going to have to extradite Kerr Kriisa after this season so he will answer for his crimes against the sport of basketball.
That whole game, I texted you guys like probably 15 minutes after tip-off, maybe 10 minutes, and I said the whole vibe in the arena was just weird.
Well, you have one team in K-State that I didn't think was playing super tuned up, but still was dominating because their opponents, like, did they want to be there? Seriously, like, for the first 30 minutes of the game, I genuinely was wondering, like, why did they make the trip? Why even bother if you're not going to play? Then all of a sudden, K-State, we're good. We're just going to stop playing.
They stayed in the locker room.
West Virginia made every shot down the stretch. Raekwon Battle turned into, like, prime Kevin Durant.
Oh, all right. We got to save some of this for this actual breakdown coming up in a minute. We will talk more. I'm mad. I'm very upset
this was the last
about
we
this
were going to
game.
speak of it.
Yeah.
Yes, this segment, and then we're burying.
And then it's over.
Imagine if you missed last night's game. If, like, you're a K-State fan and, like, you had something else going on at 6 o'clock last night. You get home at 8:30. Oh, hey, how'd K-State do? Oh, they won in overtime. How about that? Oh. And then you went on with your evening, probably happier for not having to see how that happened.
Yeah. Wow, another overtime game. Jerome Tang does it again.
Never get into a land war with Asia and never get into overtime with Jerome Tang.
Buddy, if you only knew. Yeah, so wild first experience for you at Bramlage Coliseum then.
Yeah. Well, it was a Monday night game, and in the post-game comments, apparently there were across the campus, there were exams that were happening.
Uh-huh.
So Coach Tang was not happy with the student body presence at the game and with the professors because they scheduled exams on that night.
Yeah, you can't do exams on Big Monday. Come on. The professor's got to be on the ball there.
I will say this about Jerome Tang. And he had a comment, I think it was during last night's post game. In theory, come out and support us. Mm-hmm. Earlier in the year when they were really sucking it up, and he's like, hey, where are you guys? Like, well, maybe like have one possession without a turnover and then people will show up.
Jerome Tang will always be the first to say, hey, the crowd was great tonight. He will always be the first to say that. And that's great because it makes you feel like you're part of it. It makes you feel like that's what we want if we're a fan of a team, right? Like we want to feel like we're helping, even though, I mean, we're not out there, drawing any charges or, making corner threes unguarded. We like to feel like we help. So Jerome Tang will make a K-State fan and a K-State student feel like you made an impact tonight. You helped our energy level. You got loud. But when they don't do that, for whatever reason, Jerome Tang is going to be the first to say, hey, man, we need a little bit more juice tonight. And it's disappointing that we didn't have that.
So we'll break the game down and the weird feeling of that entire game coming up here in just a few moments. As I mentioned, we'll hear from Brett Veach and Andy Reid from the Combine, talk a little Royals baseball as well, the latest from Surprise, Arizona. Michael Swain is going to join us. We will preview KU versus BYU tonight. Threes are back on the menu. KU chasing guys around the three-point arc is back on the menu, and so is every KU fan opening up their phone, opening the Twitter, X, Elon Incorporated app 4 minutes into the first half and saying, oh, look, who's this new white guy we're giving up a million threes to? It's going to happen.
Looks like it's one of those nights.
Be prepared. It is going to happen.
At least it will be it won't be as easy to watch the game if you're a KU fan.
Oh, is there an ESPN Plus tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's on the Plus.
The good old Plus.
Which was weird because I think it's like a week. They do week holds, I think, for that, don't they? In college basketball.
No, basketball, the schedule is the schedule.
Yeah.
I don't think
they can move things to the network. Marshall just got moved to
They
ESPN
do, but
too.
So generally speaking, at least I can only speak to the Big 12, but generally speaking, they will announce the TV networks at the start of the season, but for certain games, they will move them up. But I'm not surprised this one.
Yeah,
isn't,
not typically
frankly.
for a Tuesday night. Like, KU doesn't get on the Plus much, so like
That's
the Plus is kind of protective of the KU games they do get.
Yeah. So that we'll preview that game coming up. We will get to your comments on the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Text line is still down. We're working on it. We quite literally had a meeting this morning where we talked about trying to fix the text line. So don't worry. We are working on it. It is not up right now. If you want to let your comments be heard, either jump into the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, or shoot us a tweet. Come follow us on Twitter. Shoot us a
comment on the X stream, the Twitter stream.
We're streaming the video on Twitter,
on
the
Facebook?
WIBW News Facebook. There's a lot of ways you can get in touch with us, just not on the text line right now. We do apologize about that.
You can even text Dan at I'm kidding.
No, as we went over yesterday, I don't know Dan's phone number. I can't even give that. I can give you the area code. I can't give you the rest of the phone number. Yours or mine, I could do. I couldn't do Dan's off the top of my head.
720.
Yeah, I know that. I know suburban Denver. That's about it from that point. All right, let's get to that game from last night. Let's stop beating around the bush. Oh, God. K-State beats West Virginia. Look, there is a part of me that just says, look, you have to win games at this point. The most important thing is getting a win.
There aren't any style points. I
No.
mean, maybe in the Ken Palm there are, but in the standings, there are no style points. That was a must-win game for Kansas State, and they won it. And as long as you don't have any further questions, that's good enough, right?
Yeah. So surface level, fine. Made history with a 12th straight overtime win and 7-1 season. Here's the issue, though. If you actually watched the game, I don't know how you could, unless you are the most sunshine pumper, homer, optimistic fan possible. And if so, that's fine. Do your thing. I don't know how you could come away from that game feeling positively about anything. Because again, even in the first 30 minutes, when K-State was winning by 20 plus points pretty much that entire time, like, I don't think K-State was playing a great game. West Virginia looked pathetic.
They looked like they didn't get off the bus.
For real. Like, it felt like they left the team, left all their energy in Morgantown. I thought they looked awful. I put it on Twitter right as we went to half. Was it Perry with the last three before halftime?
Yeah.
To make it 22-point game?
They ran a screen and roll, and both guys followed the roller, and Perry was all alone. Like, K-State made 11 threes in the first half, which is preposterous. Like, that's good for them for a game this year. And they made 11 threes in the first half. And some of that, there's an element of fool's gold to that, but a lot of them were really good in rhythm, open looks off of ball movement. And, teams are going to make warm-up threes, right? And K-State got a lot of warm-up threes in the first half, and they made a lot of warm-up threes. And that's how you score 46 and a half or 48 and a half and end up feeling pretty good going in the locker room up by 22 points. They led by 25 with 16 minutes to go. I mean, the game is over. It's over. You're playing out the string at that point. And somebody forgot to tell West Virginia, who, at the time I was watching, I felt like, man, K-State, they just quit defending. They quit trying hard on defense. And they showed a montage of all the made shots in the second half. Like, I might have been a little harsh. I don't think that K-State completely shut off, but there was enough shut off and enough of West Virginia making some really tough shots. And then all of a sudden, that was a 4-point West Virginia lead with a minute to go. Like, that game's in the bag for West Virginia all of a sudden. Like, they're going to win. They're going to escape. And for however harsh you want to be on K-State, and there's no harsh that's harsh enough to blow a 25-point lead in a 15-minute span at home against a sorry team in a game you have to win. You got to finish that game. You got to step on their necks, get into and one mixtape mode and win by 35. Like, there's no excuse for the way, and especially in the final 5 minutes where it was obvious that K-State was starting to panic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why Jerome Tang didn't call a timeout. He probably held on to his timeouts a little bit too long. I felt like he could have called a timeout when it got down to 10 and maybe settled things a little bit. But minute left, down by 4. K-State was like, snapped out of it and said, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get to the free throw line. We're going to foul their worst foul shooter. We're going to get back to the free throw line. Tyler Perry being an ATM at the free throw line is such an asset.
Can't forget about Cam Carter. They combined 18 for 20.
Yeah, Carter was great too. Perry's the guy, though, that just doesn't miss. He's a 91% foul shooter. And to be able to say, hey, we're going to go get 2 points because Tyler Perry's going to go to the line in the double bonus and we're going to get 2 points. Like, K-State knew exactly what it wanted to do in the final minute of that game, even trailing. They regained their composure just in time. And then they did what they do in overtime. They play with more composure and poise in the overtime session than their opponent. That's how you win 12 straight games in that scenario. So credit where it is due. Also, heavy demerits where it is due for the fact that a 25-point home lead against dog-ass West Virginia even got to the point where you went to overtime.
There was that. Okay. Tyler Perry at the free throw line is great. This is the start of talking about how the least pleasant player to watch in college basketball 3 years running now. He moved schools, he moved coasts, and he still owns this title. 15 seconds left. Ball in Tyler Perry's hands. Best free throw shooter in the Big 12. One of the very best in the entire country. He is automatic. Damn near automatic. 92% for the year, whatever crazy number it is. Why is Kerr Kriisa getting anywhere close to a position where he might foul Tyler Perry? Like, you could have defended that because he's cutting baseline, right? On that right side of the basket, trying to get to the cup. You could have defended him any number of ways without trying to just bump him with your pelvis and ending up committing a blatant, obvious foul. How dumb are you? That's the big thing I take away from West Virginia in this game. And I don't know if this is a reflection of Josh Eilert. I don't want to say that. It might be because he's a K-State guy, local college product, rooting for Josh Eilert in a tough situation at West Virginia. That is the dumbest team I've seen this year, which makes me even more mad that they beat KU in Morgantown. Like, they just play such dumb basketball, led by Captain Idiot Kerr Kriisa, who is miserable, dude. It is awful to watch him play basketball.
Yeah, I hate watching him play.
He could have scored 80 yesterday, and I would have said, no, he sucked. He was awful.
That play at the end of regulation where you've got Raekwon Battle, who, like, flames are emanating from his fingertips.
Oh my God.
Like the guy on NBA Jam. Raekwon Battle, I don't think, missed a three-pointer until that one with 8 seconds to go. And boy, howdy, he got a good look to tie the game late and finally missed one. But Raekwon Battle is hotter than the surface of the sun. And you've got a chance to go win this game, steal on the road. And Kerr Kriisa says, in whatever the Estonian equivalent of, it's Kerr Kriisa time, baby. And he does his dance, which, of course, he's got no moves and no wiggle, so he doesn't lose his defender. And then he just kind of tosses it up towards the basket. Maybe he thought there'd be time for a rebound and a putback. There was not. I don't know. Maybe get the ball to your best player. But no, Kerr Kriisa is one of those basketball players that forever and always thinks, they came to see me, and I'm the man. The ball's in my hands. I'm the man. I'm the show. It is Kerr Kriisa o'clock. And that decision-making killed West Virginia in that final minute, and it killed them for the better part of overtime because they just stopped getting the ball to the one guy who couldn't miss. And if they had just simply kept feeding Raekwon Battle, because I am convinced Raekwon Battle could have stood in the middle of the K-State student section and probably made a three-pointer down the stretch. He was unconscious. I've never seen a player make the shots that Raekwon Battle was making. And they ignored him for the first 3 minutes of overtime because Kerr Kriisa was like, you know whose time it is? That's right, mine.
Remarkable shot maker who was in rhythm, who was already hot from the floor, who, by the by, has a reputation and a past where he had cooked K-State.
Yeah.
This same style of defense, literally last year, 11 months ago. Somebody leading up to this game watched tape of that to know how do we better defend this guy, or wow, what did he do effectively the last time he played them? How is he not touching the ball and getting at least a look for a shot every time down the floor in the final 5 minutes of regulation into overtime? It is insanity. Insanity.
Tang didn't even realize it.
I'm so glad I never have to watch Kirk Caruso play basketball again. I am so grateful. Enjoy the third tier of the Turkish Super League, my dude. Get out of my face for all time. One of the least pleasant and most insufferable college basketball players of my entire life watching college basketball.
I don't even know why he stayed at West Virginia. There was this whole thing about him not even going to stay at West Virginia.
When
he was going to
Huggins
leave.
left.
Yeah, he was going to leave.
I think, did they have an international event this year? Did they go overseas during the preseason?
I don't know.
Because if they did, I bet that's why, because then he could have gotten NIL money since he's an international player. That game just drove me nuts. And it drove me nuts because West Virginia played so badly. And I was mentioning this earlier. I put it online last night at halftime. Tyler Perry hits that last three. K-State's 11th of the first half. And I put on Twitter, just sim to the end. Just call the game at halftime. No one wants to watch West Virginia basketball. I had been watching the full game up to that point while my wife and I were eating dinner. We started moving stuff. Like I was moving boxes into the basement. We had our washer and dryer brought to our house today. They were delivered. So I had to clean out the laundry room. I had to move stuff around. We had to put stuff up. That's what I was doing during the second half. I keep coming down and Abby goes, they're within 15. They're within 10. Now they're only up 5. What is going on? How is this happening? Because every time I came down, it got worse. It's frustrating that West Virginia looked that awful because, come on, like, I know you're not very good. I know you're not making the tournament, but you could at least, show up.
Yeah, my buddy, he from West Virginia, he texted me and he said it was probably halfway through the first half. He said, all right, I'm turning it off. I can't do this West Virginia team anymore. Like, how do you not even show up to this game? And then he went on to watching something else, and I texted him when it was, let me double check here. I think when I said it was like a 15-point game or 10, or when it was down to a 10, and I said, hey, get back to your, turn back to the game. And he said, hold on, give me a second. He goes, wow. And then he texted me, Jesse Edwards is the one that cost us the comeback.
Jesse Edwards did not play well, which is tough because he is a very talented player. I think he is a very good player. If you've got a 7-footer who's going 1 for 9 from the floor, you're not going to win very often. That's just not going to end up working out for you. Like, Edwards has got to have more than 5 and 7 on 1 of 9 shooting, especially because he's not a good free throw shooter. And even though K-State's bigs have been playing better, Jesse Edwards was the best big man talent-wise in that game. So, yeah, he was bad. Krisa down the stretch was, I know the numbers look fine. He goes for 25 points, 6 assists, 8 of 20 shooting is fine, made 5 threes. It just, the decision-making is brutal. We have a comment in on YouTube from Christopher who says, most of the players who come over from Eastern Europe are far more disciplined than what we saw from Kirk Krisa. Yeah, you can say whatever you want about European-style basketball and the way that the EuroLeague guys play. They're better than that. It's just incredibly frustrating. But again, K-State needed to win, got the win in the long run. That's all that matters. And again, granted, KU doesn't have a win over West Virginia. KU lost in Morgantown when they played and didn't pick up an opportunity for a winnable game right there. So you take the wins where you can get them. I don't know if I was a K-State fan that I would feel very good about that win. You're happy you got it, but man, I don't think you can feel happy about getting that done by any means.
Everybody I know that's a West Virginia fan, they're just waiting for them to get kicked out or lose in the first round of the Big 12 tournament and for them to start their national head coaching search.
Just move on. Just ready for the year to be done.
Yeah.
I get
it. Because, I mean, their AD said it. Their president said it last year. They were just going to give Josh Eilert the year because it was too late in the process. And then come the end of the season, they were going to reevaluate and do a national search if they needed to. So West Virginia fans are ready for a new head coach.
And I think it's fair. Eilert was pushed into a job he might not have been ready for. West Virginia had to hire someone, and the guys liked him, and they thought that's the way they could keep their roster together. And they at least somewhat did. I mean, they kept Krisa, they kept Edwards. But yeah, just an ugly situation.
I never realized this, but he was an assistant last year. And then that's really all of his actual coaching experience.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very much new blood in the coaching game. I mean, he had not been on a bench since 2007.
That's what I'm saying. He was a administrative guy on the team. He was the video coordinator. He was the director of basketball operations. Like, he wasn't an assistant coach.
Yeah, and I will say that as director of basketball ops, like, there is coaching that goes on with that, but it's not, it's not like he was first chair assistant or something like that. So I got why it happened. I didn't expect it to be this bad, but I'm also not surprised that it ended up looking at least something like this. We'll talk some more college basketball coming up next. We will also hear later on this hour from Brett Veach, Chiefs general manager, when he spoke at the Combine earlier today. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That is Spencer Dupuis. Dan Lucero will be back in studio with us coming up in just a moment. A lot of high school hoops coming up tonight. Sub-State week, it is in full effect. We will have a couple of different games on our airwaves coming up tonight. Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer, will be at the House of Blues tonight for some Washburn Rural girls basketball. Rural girls trying to get back to the 6A state tournament and try to make the 6A state championship game for the third year in a row. So that is coming up in game one of our doubleheader today at 6 o'clock. Then game two, which we will join in progress. Spencer Dupuis will be on the broadcast of that one from the Charger Dome as Topeka West takes on Seaman in 5A West boys action. How about that? A little city versus city on the first night of 5A Sub-State.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. I mean, both teams seem to be on a little different ends of the spectrum, but it's the playoffs. It's high school basketball. I feel like throughout the country, throughout, the states that I've watched in or covered basketball, high school basketball in, the playoffs are a different animal.
Oh, yeah. No, that is absolutely true. And that building has hosted a lot of big-time basketball games and playoff postseason, sub-state, et cetera, games over the last couple of years. So that should be fun. Again, Washburn Rural girls first, then Topeka West versus Seaman coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, and then joined in progress right here on the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship on 580 WIBW. KU also in action coming up tonight. KU taking on BYU at Allen Fieldhouse. Yours truly will be there for that game, 7 o'clock tip-off from the Old Barn. I guess that game is on ESPN Plus, which Dan and Spencer just informed me of a little bit ago. So we will be looking forward to that game. If you want to watch, it'll be on the Plus coming up a little bit later on tonight. We'll preview that game in the 5 o'clock hour, as well as at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour in Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain, who will join us in just about 2 hours, just a little over 2 hours from right now. Did you see, guys, that we had another head coach who teed off on his players this week after Rick Pitino did last week and kind of got killed for it, at least a little bit? It brought out a lot of debate over whether it was just good quality, tough love and knowing what your guys need or crossing a line in the public. We had Sean Miller now for Xavier do the same thing this week, saying, among other things, quote, "The disposition of our group in Milwaukee playing Marquette is just fundamentally unacceptable. They were not ready to play. They did not play with great effort. And there's a couple of guys that frankly don't deserve to play anymore." That's extreme, I would say. Now, the difference here is Sean Miller did not name anyone by name. Rick Pitino actually called out one of his own guys and said he tries hard, but he's not athletic enough, which is kind of wild. Even, Bill Self is not afraid to call someone out and say someone needs to play better, but he's never said that. Usually there's some sort of silver lining or positive spin to it.
Yeah, that's been true about some guys that Bill Self has coached too, but he's never said that out loud.
Oh, yeah. I was part of the group that wanted Hunter Mickelson to play more. I'll admit it. I missed on that one. It happens sometimes.
The McMahon.
I really thought that was going to solve problems. Nope, just play more Landon Lucas. That's what that oh, God. I miss Landon Lucas. Loved that dude. Anyway, I thought it was fascinating. That has become now a trend in college basketball, is these veteran head coaches just kind of losing it at their guys. I don't know if that's just like Rick Pitino being Rick Pitino and Sean Miller being Sean Miller. Or...
I definitely think it's Rick Pitino being Rick Pitino.
Oh, yeah. I would say that one for sure.
He's had some like iconic, it's so great to have him back in big time college basketball.
Yeah.
Like, put aside the fact that he's, got a history of some NCAA violations and some other history too that's not all that pleasant to talk about. He's gold behind the microphone, man. He's got some of the best press conference moments of all time, and he's given us some gems this year.
Oh, yeah.
What game was it where he said, "When I lose, I want to kill myself"?
Oh, yeah. All right, I got to look this up. I'm going to be careful. Otherwise, our filter at work is going to recommend me to HR here.
Something like, I want to like
walk in front of a bus or something.
No, something about like, I want to give myself hypothermia, jump in the nearest river or something like that.
Here we go. Let me pull up the full quote in this tweet here. Rick Pitino asked if, all things considered, he felt good about today. Quote, "When we lose, I hate the bleeping world. I don't believe in those valiant efforts on the road. I feel like I want to kill myself jumping into the cold and die of frostbite."
That's what it is. Frostbite, not hypothermia.
And that's a really unpleasant way to die, too.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like any fun. That's not instant.
No, not by any means. That seems extremely unpleasant. Other news, by the way, from the college basketball world. Did you see we no longer have any winless teams?
Yes.
Mississippi Valley State got a win. They beat Prairie View A&M.
Did you see the broadcast?
I did. So apparently it's a pay-per-view broadcast thing that the SWAC does.
Yes.
You pay to watch them, kind of like if you're a Washburn fan, you might do it the MIAA network. Their broadcast team, they were living for that broadcast. I mean, they were having the time of their lives.
They're awesome. Like, I would rather listen to those guys than listen to one more. Like, at least they're having fun. Like, Pete Souza is half asleep calling games on the Big 12 now, ESPN Plus. And
God forbid I have to listen to another Jay Williams broadcast. My God, he is bad.
Brian Custer openly rooting for the West Virginia comeback last night. I am not the biggest King McClure fan in the world either. I know maybe he's grown on some people. I actually thought last night, like, he did say some things where I said, actually, that was a good point by King McClure, which is not a thought I typically have. But no, shout out to the Mississippi Valley State guys. We have the audio. Can we play that?
Do you have it? Or
I do. I
it
have it. If you want to go ahead.
Tell me which one.
Computer 2.
Me. Yeah, get that in program 3. Yeah, we want to hear the guys from the Valley Sports Network celebrating the first win of the season for the Delta Devils as they beat Prairie View A&M last night, the final seconds of the broadcast.
We ain't heard that. And Andre, that's game! And that will be game! And that will be game! And that's now built that first win! First ball, we storm the court! And that's we're storming the court! We're storming the court! Oh, my God!
The court storm is like 30 people.
Shout out Coach Ivory. And the Delta Devils would improve them. 1-27, 1-14. In a swag. What is you saying? The Mississippi Valley Delta Devils are currently on a 1-game winning streak.
No, that's awesome. I love the way he says, "Oh my God."
I do too.
That's free. That's awesome, man. I'm gonna try not to name names here. There are some people when they get really excited about big moments, it sounds very manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
These dudes were living and dying with this game,
yes.
And that is awesome.
Genuinely excited.
Awesome.
That was a genuine shout out to Coach Ivory. Like I really felt that.
That's so cool. It's on senior night too.
Yes. Their last game in the activity center. And they did. They had about 25, 30 students come out and jump up and down at center court and then quickly vacate. No opposing players were harmed. It was the ideal court storm.
That's awesome. That's so cool. They came off the court really quickly too.
Yeah.
They ran on, jumped up a few times, and then immediately peeled off.
They had a moment of self-reflection like, man, we're 1-27. Like maybe we should calm down.
Nah, good for them though. When
Yeah.
you don't have many things to celebrate, go celebrate them. That is awesome.
That means we are now down to 4 teams who do not have a conference win in the United States. There are 4 teams in college basketball that do not have a conference win. 2 of them are out west. The Cal Poly Mustangs do not have a win in the Big West. The Pacific Tigers, shout out to Michael Olowokandi, they do not have a win in the West Coast Conference. So it's been a struggle for them. Also winless in conference play in men's college basketball this year. Of course, DePaul. Oh my God, DePaul 0-16 in the Big East.
This should be impossible. There is absolutely no reason why that team in that area cannot put together even a capable, competent basketball team.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that they just kind of forfeited being competitive in men's basketball with the great history they have in the city of Chicago. Yeah, it's a great basketball city. That's wild to me. The other team without a conference win is the Missouri Tigers.
That's awesome. I love it so much. It's awesome.
They are 0-14
I
in
heard
the SEC.
I had to hear all offseason about how Gates coming, Dennis Gates coming. Look at this recruiting class. A bunch of bums. Awful team. Awful basketball team.
Shawnee's just getting his numbers, though. Tell you what.
Yeah, good for him.
Shawnee's is out there getting buckets.
Do you know where Mississippi Valley State University is located?
Itty
Ittabena, Mississippi. Do you know how big that town is?
Itty bitty.
1,600 people. There's a Division I university in a town of 1,600 people.
One of my high school baseball teammates signed with Mississippi Valley State out of high school.
Really?
Yeah. Played a year of college ball in SWAC, and then transferred, ended up at Northern Colorado, and then finished up at Azusa Pacific. But
wow, all over the place.
Yeah, all over the map. But yeah, committed to Mississippi Valley State.
There's
of course, most famous alumni, Jerry Rice.
Of course, yes. Can you name any other famous alumni?
No.
Looking at their Wikipedia right now. I'm just looking at the town right now. Hold on. Let me get to the alumni. Your famous alumni from there include, obviously, Jerry Rice, several local, state senators and whatnot. Let's
Deacon
see.
Jones.
Deacon Jones. Yep. There's one for you. Man, even some of these, they're ones I don't recognize, to be completely honest with you.
I don't have a lot for you.
Jason Holmes, the first American to play in the Australian Football League. Play Aussie rules.
Social media personality, famous Amos.
No, that's the cookie guy.
No.
What do you mean social media personality?
Wait,
I didn't
what?
know they had a Twitter account. That's the cookie guy to me.
Yes, that's cookies.
I would house a whole box of those cookies right now. I tell you what.
You and me both.
That sounds so good. Well, we go try to find some cookies. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll come back and hear from Brett Veach right here on 580 Sports Talk. We had a comment on YouTube from our buddy Vance regarding Itabena, Mississippi. He says that's like if Holton, Kansas had a Division I program. Actually, Itabena is half the size of Holton. So shout out to our many friends up in beautiful Holton, Kansas. If you took a town half your size and dropped it in an even more rural area of the state in the woods, you would have where Mississippi Valley State is.
That's wild.
Insane, honestly, that they have a team there. But good for them. Good for them that they're...
Hey, they won a game.
Yeah. It's more than Missouri can say in conference play, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly more than they can say. Brett Veach, the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, he spoke at the NFL Combine today. Also heard from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Brett Veach first, though. Here is what the general manager, once we get this fully set up, what the general manager of the Chiefs had to say. We'll break this down a little bit later on. Sounds indeed like the franchise tag will be used on somebody. Who's it going to be? Well, let's hear from Brett Veach and what he had to say this afternoon. Eventually, we will hear what Brett Veach had to say this afternoon. Technical difficulties, live radio. It'd be like that sometimes. Let's give it another try.
Much like Coach but before we get into
Here's
the football topics, would like to definitely start off by offering our thoughts and prayers to Lisa Lopez-Galvin, her family, all the families that were impacted the day of the parade. Certainly a heartbreaking and tragic day for us. Our organization has been in contact with the families, and we will continue to do so and be a pillar of support for them both now and into the future. And speaking of support, certainly want to thank the first responders that day, men and women in uniform, for their support, and really everyone that day that showed their guidance during a tough time. Numerous player accounts and stories, and proud of those guys for the work they did and for the calmness they showed. So definitely wanted to start off by again sending our thoughts and prayers to those families. It's tough to transition now into football, but understand that's why we're here, and a lot to be proud and thankful for. 8 straight AFC West titles, 6 AFC championships, 4 Super Bowls in the last 6 years, 3 Super Bowl wins. So back-to-back titles hadn't been done in a while, and we're looking forward to going after that ever-elusive three-peat. And wouldn't be here without the outstanding leadership of Clark and the Hunt family, and Mark and his crew, our great players, our outstanding coaching staff, Ted Cruz, for his amazing job that he does all year. And my personnel staff, can't thank them enough. I truly believe I have best group of scouts in the NFL. So looking forward to being here and starting this process, meeting with player agents and getting to know the new draft prospects and to meet them and interview them. So with that, I'll take your questions.
Can you talk about how you assess the receiver position since the time you coach and how you will be assessing it this offseason?
I think much like any position, we're always looking to get better. And so, whether it be receiver, O-line, D-line, DBs, any opportunity we can to make our team better, we're gonna do that. And so we put a high priority on the depth in our roster, and so we'll attack that much like we do all the positions and try to get the very best players we can and go through our process. Every team's process is a little bit different and unique. We have ours, and there's always a chance to refine and tune things. But again, I think in this league, because of such a long season, I'm talking 20-game season, it's a marathon, and you have to attack every position and with the mindset of just having that depth, because it's not a matter of if, but when players go down. Yeah, we did a lot of work on him, and that is, that's a good point. It's a little bit different in our offense. There's a lot of verbiage, a lot of dialogue. You're always going to have a coaching staff that puts a ton of pressure on young players to come in and perform. Our situation is a little unique where you have a coaching staff and a quarterback that puts a lot of pressure for the players to come in and perform right away. So credit to Rasheed. It just speaks to him and his resilience. It was a lot early on, and our coaches just did a great job of pacing him. I know early on you see the flashes and you want more and more and more, but there was a plan, there was a vision, and sometimes these things take time. Sometimes they don't happen as soon as you want. It takes some time, but with Rasheed, I think he was determined to make it happen this year and to keep working. And, he did a great job. So certainly credit to him and the work he put in off the field with the playbook and with our coaches after practice. I mean, we're going to, just like last year, with Chris and with LJ, with a lot of our players, we get a chance to meet the agents this week. And he's at the top of the list. I love Chris and tried really hard to get something done, and we didn't. But when we got together right after that Detroit game, we had a great talk, and, both parties, I think, want to be here. So we'll get to work, and, that's certainly a guy we want back and love and want to see him finishing in his career here in Kansas City. Well, I mean, I think our division, tremendous coaching. I mean, I think the first thing you think of is the outstanding coaching. And now 2 more great coaches hired in LA and in Oakland. So I think that, the task is with these organizations is that they're smart organizations, they're tough organizations, and they're led by great coaches. And so they're going to have different ways to attack us. And I mean, we all saw last year what Vegas did to us Christmas Day, and we went on, I think, to win the rest of the game. So never an easy game. But I think we just have to be in the mindset of just control what we can control and just try to put this roster together and be the best version of ourselves. And I think when we just take care of what we need to do and just try to make our roster better and get better, improving from what we did last year. I don't think we ever chase anybody. We just try to be the best version of ourselves. So we'll continue to do that, but certainly a tough task in our division. Great teams, great rosters, great coaching staffs.
Brett, when you do guys like to get one deal done while you're negotiating simultaneously to get one frame at
Yeah, I mean, certainly. That's always a stress. You'd like to be able to tag all the guys and pay all the guys, and it's tough because the more you win, I mean, the more you got to pay players. And obviously, when you have this amount of success, you're paying a lot of players a lot of money, and then it's equally as tough because you're drafting late. So there's challenges. We'll go through them, and we'll always put our best foot forward. Certainly want to do what we can to try to keep both those players, and that's going to be our goal and intent. Hopefully, we're able to figure something out. But every free agency is different, unique, and crazy. And so, but we do have one tag, and I anticipate probably using it to help us. But I think our goal is to try to get both those players done and then work down the rest of our roster. Yeah, we'll get a chance to meet with him and his agent, Love McCall, and if there's an opportunity there that makes sense for him and us, I'm sure we wouldn't be opposed to going down that road. I mean, listen, when you have a guy that has played in this offense and understands all the verbiage, all the dialogues, all the play checks, I mean, that's why we didn't have a lot of ammunition to do much at the trade deadline last year. That one just kind of opened itself up where price wasn't much, and our coaches knew him, he knew us, and it worked out. And I mean, thrilled for him for that last play. I mean, what a turn of events for him. But love McCall, and I'm sure we'll be in contact with him. I'm not a big reader. No, I watch the Netflix documentaries, and I'm a big documentary guy. So I don't read much, but I spend a lot of time just watching documentaries and trying to learn about historical events and things in the past. But Mike Berganzi is the guy you want to talk to. He reads every time I'm in his office. He's reading a book. So if you're wanting to talk books and talk reading, Mike Berganzi is the guy. Yeah, we go through our process. That one was a long process there, and there was, I think, from our end, we attack this like we do every player that we add in our roster. We just go through the whole process and our entire intel and security team. And I think when that came through, there was a pretty much green light, and that it was an opportunity for him. Probably should have been in the league maybe sooner than what he was, but he had to go through that process, and looking forward to adding to the roster. But as far as the information in our process, there was no hold up there.
What did you say about Reid? You guys did Patrick's long-term deal. Was that to kind of create long-term stability? And what did you say about Grant Tillson's role in kind of putting that together?
Wait, Brant's amazing. We're certainly going to miss Brant, and congratulations to him and his family and to the Panthers for that hire there. Brant, Chris Shea, that whole staff. I mean, really Brant got ahead of that one early, and the key in this league is getting a quarterback, and then once you get him, it's securing him long term, and then having the ability to do things within the contract to allow and provide flexibility. Brant got on top of that early. He has a tremendous relationship with the agent community, does a great job, super smart. Going to miss him a lot. I haven't get a chance to see him yet, but I'm looking forward to catching up with him. But going to miss him. We have some big shoes to fill. Chris Shea and Jack Woloff, they'll do a great job. But again, Brant was on top of that Mahomes contract early and did a great job of guiding the organization through that.
Last question.
I think, in some ways there is the benefit of, I think if you get close in negotiations, I think you get the added benefit of the ties go to the Chiefs, because I think if all things were equal, it is a money deal at the end of the day, and people aren't going to turn down a huge discrepancy in contracts. But I think we get the benefit of breaking all ties. So
that is Brett Veach. Stay for about 10 extra seconds. That is what Brett Veach had to say at the Combine today. We'll hear from head coach Andy Reid coming up next hour. First, we got to take a break for the news. We'll also talk some Royals baseball to lead off the 3 o'clock hour of this Tuesday afternoon edition of 580 Sports Talk. now 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis all joining you from the 580 studios high up on Huntoon Hill on this third to last day of the month of February. Leap year this year. We get a 29th day. My grandpa, my mom's father, was born on Leap Day, 1924.
So then how old is he really?
So he this year would have been 100 years old, but only would have had 25 birthdays.
Right.
Yeah.
25.
My one of my best friends, his birthday is on Leap Day as well. And my girlfriend didn't know that. We were talking about it the other day. She was like, wait, so how old is he really?
Tyrese Halliburton, leap year baby.
Really?
Of the Indiana Pacers.
So he's only probably had what, like
I don't have
6 birthdays?
Yes, 6.
Wow.
I don't have a personal connection to anybody, but I know that Tyrese Halliburton, former Iowa State Cyclone,
that's pretty funny.
Born on Leap Day. So there you go.
He's a hell of a player, man.
Yeah,
he's
ended up being an even better NBA player than I ever could have imagined.
Oh, way better. Way better than I thought he was going to be. He's a heck of a player. He was really good in the All-Star. Well, everyone scored a lot in the All-Star game. Save for LeBron, who only played like 4 minutes and scored 9 points. Everybody put up tons of points in the All-Star game this year. Coming up in this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we'll hear from Andy Reid a little bit later on. We've got some Royals baseball to get to and Random Question Tuesday all coming up this hour. Your comments on YouTube are still welcomed. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and you can subscribe to our channel, check out the live stream, drop a comment for us. You can also find the live stream on Twitter. Send to Twitter, go to the 580 Sports Talk Twitter account. You should follow that account, by the way. We'll have plenty of tweets telling you where we'll have high school basketball action in the next couple of weeks. I will have live updates tonight from KU versus BYU at Allen Fieldhouse. And again, you can find our stream there. So go find us on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk and on the WIBW News Facebook page as well. Live streaming the show there today. By the way, speaking of high school basketball, 2 big games coming up today. I was talking about them a little bit earlier. Washburn Rural in action, the 6A girls West bracket in action today. 5A boys as well. Dan and the coach, Larry Latimer, will be there at the House of Blues tonight for the Rural girls. And then Spencer will have his first game doing play-by-play for us here on 580 WIBW this evening for City versus City, Seaman versus Topeka West. Should be a fun night of basketball.
And pardon me if I mess up your child's name.
Well, if you did, you can. Night. It is, but you can blame me because I'm the one that tried to give you pronunciations for everybody. So if anybody gets mad, you could have just told them it was my fault.
I mean, I tend to not throw other people under the bus. I learned that early on in my career.
That's polite of you. I'm just saying you could have if you'd.
But I have in the past messed up someone's name on it. I mean, you know.
Well, nobody does it on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, if you do, you're an ass.
Yeah.
I hope you don't do that.
No, I still feel bad about times I've messed up.
I mean, heck, people mess up my name all the time, so I get it.
I feel that.
Yeah, we all have stories, I'm sure. All 3 of us have stories. They're not a Smith or a Jones on this particular radio program. But even the ones that are hard to mispronounce, I still remember, this is over a decade ago, doing a junior college men's basketball game. And I think it was Central Community College or South. It was one of the small town Nebraska community colleges out in eastern Nebraska. And they had a player named Venton Wilder. And I called him Van Wilder the entire night. Not on purpose. I had his name in front of me. But V Wilder just in my head became, and then Venton Wilder makes another 3-pointer. Like he was their like primary scorer, ball handler, and I must have called him Van Wilder a dozen times. And I felt terrible, and I still obviously this still resonates with me.
Yeah.
Also, one time doing a game with Jake when we used to do Washburn games together, Central Missouri had a player named Michael Winger, and I actually called him Kip Winger at one point.
Of the famed Winger band.
Yes. Denver's own Winger. Yeah. I still feel bad about that one too.
That's pretty funny. You get a pretty good introduction to Kansas high school hoops with Craig Cox versus Rick Bloomquist on the bench. 2 legends of the game. Bloomy's been doing it for forever.
Yeah.
Craig's been doing it for a long time. Won a state title 2 years ago. That's going to be fun. A lot of fun basketball coming up tonight.
I've had the fortunate ability to broadcast games of some really storied coaches in high school in my two jobs then.
Yeah, We are very, very fortunate in this city, the caliber of coaches we have, basketball and all sports as well. We obviously broadcast football and basketball, but we have been really fortunate, at least since you and I have been here, Dan, to have the kind of coaches that we have.
Yeah, outstanding coaches, teams, and you can tell the teams that are well coached because they're always prepared. They play together. Seaman and Topeka West, that's a long-time rivalry that's now been able to remain a rivalry as both schools left the old Centennial League to join the United Kansas Conference together last year. So a lot of history there. It's going to be a fun game. You're starting off on a high note, Spencer.
There
we go.
Should be a lot of fun coming up tonight right here on 580 WIBW on the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship. Little Royals baseball news today. Unfortunately, the Royals gave up a run. The scoreless streak for the pitching staff did come to a close today.
When you run into the offensive juggernaut that is the Colorado Rockies, you're going to give up a run.
A single run.
May give up even two.
Split squad today, in fact, for the Royals.
In fact, they have given up two. The Rockies have scored another run.
They have.
It is 2-0 as that game goes to the bottom of the fifth.
The Padres have not scored, though, against the other Royal squad.
Yes, Michael Wacha, a couple of strikeouts in the first inning of that start. It was Daniel Lynch going against the Rockies, gave up a run on a hit and a walk in 2 innings, also struck out 2.
Well, then the scoreless streak continues.
How does it work with a split squad?
With a split squad?
Pick the better of the two?
No, you just collaborate the innings at the end of the day.
You just have a doubleheader.
The 18 straight scoreless going into today, and then they could have had 18 scoreless today, but no.
Unfortunately, no.
Because, again, you cannot stop Michael Tolley and Elauris Montero. You can only hope to contain them.
Nick Prado hit a home run yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Think he's going to make the 26?
No.
I don't think so.
I just don't think there's room for him. I don't think – so we talked a lot about Prado last year because he got, his – big chance last season with the Royals when Vinny Pasquantino went out. That opened up playing time at first base, and last year felt like Nick Prado's big chance, and he came out and he hit for a really high average right away. But you and I were saying it as it was happening. Look, this is fool's gold. His batting average on balls in play is close to 500.
It was over 500 for multiple weeks.
It ended up at 388, which is still preposterously high. When you got a 388 batting average on balls in play and your overall batting average is 232.
Yuck.
Yeah, you are not making enough contact. And that was kind of the case for Prado last year. In 345 plate appearances, Nick Prado struck out 138 times. That is a 40% strikeout ratio on the nose. 40% of the time he's going to the plate, he was striking out. And you cannot do that as a major league hitter unless you are going to hit 40 home runs. And Nick Prado hit 7 home runs in 345 plate appearances. So he's only 24. I'm not writing Nick Prado off entirely, but the most likely future for Nick Prado, he looks like another in the long line of the proud tradition of Royals, quad A sluggers, your Mike Jacobses, your Ryan Sheelys, your Keela Kai-Hues. That looks like the ultimate fate for Nick Prado, the most likely fate, unless he is able to start making a lot more contact, or at least a lot louder contact, because now Vinny's back, and the path to playing time is kind of closed off for Nick Prado at the major league level for now. Very, very hard to see him making the 26 unless there's an injury.
The other thing, too, he's a bad defensive player. He was pretty much whatever metric you want to look at, did not view him very favorably last year. Outs above average, in the negatives, defensive runs saved, not any prettier. In fact, all the advanced fielding metrics don't like him.
Which was a surprise because he had a really good reputation as a defender, as an amateur coming up through the minor leagues as well. So that was kind of surprising. And you wonder sometimes with a young player who might be struggling at the plate if they're taking that out when they wear the glove too, and having that affect their defense a little bit. I certainly think that's a possible outcome.
Yeah. So I just feel like even if he does start to take some strides with the bat this spring, that leads you to another guy who hits the ball hard and can't field. The Royals already have 2 of those on the 26 for sure. One of whom who is also coming off of a bad year.
Yeah, they gave Prado a look at left field too. last year, and I don't think that really took. The one thing that Prado does have going for him, he's left-handed. This is a really right-handed heavy lineup right now. They could use a bit of lefty thump. The hope, obviously, is that Pasquantino is going to give them some of that, and then whether it's Isbell or Waters in center, Waters switch hits and Isbell hits left-handed, but they could certainly benefit from another left-handed bat stepping forward. I think it's more likely to be Melendez than it is Prado, but there will be an opportunity. I think we'll see Nick Prado in the major leagues at some point this year, but as far as him being able to perform at a level that you would hope a top 10 overall draft pick would, it is all going to be contingent on more contact and louder contact.
Some other news personnel-wise for the Royals. Carlos Hernandez not going to be active for a while, dealing with shoulder soreness. That's a bummer. That don't really have anything more to add to that. I mean, that just sucks for Carlos Hernandez. It looked 2 years ago, man, like they really had something with him. I mean, he was awesome during the back half of what was that, 21.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a couple years ago now, or a few years ago, I should say. And it's not like the peripherals were terrible. They indicated he was probably getting at least a little bit lucky, but it's not like, he had an ERA in the 2s with a fielding independent number in the high 4s. Like, he was pitching well in general, even if the counting stats looked a little bit better than you would expect given the underlying numbers. But I don't know. I feel like he's probably just a guy.
So it was looking like if he was going to make the bullpen, it was going to be maybe as the last arm or one of the last arms, because the one thing that Carlos Hernandez does that you cannot give up on is that he throws the ball 100 miles an hour, sometimes even 101 miles an hour. I think a time or two last year, he may have even thrown the ball 102 miles an hour. That is exceptional. There are more guys that can do that now than there used to be. That's probably the greatest change, one of the greatest changes in baseball over like the last 20 years. Like, you remember Joel Zumaya?
I remember that Joel Zumaya allegedly injured his arm playing too much Guitar Hero.
Yes, ruined his arm playing Guitar Hero. But like Joel Zumaya throwing 100 miles an hour out of the Detroit bullpen for that team that won a pennant in 05, like he was one of the biggest freaks in baseball because nobody was throwing that hard. He was the one guy who was coming out of he was the new guy coming out of the bullpen, and he was throwing 100 miles an hour, and you knew who he was. Even if you were not a fan of the Tigers or an American League Central team, you knew who he was because word got around, man, the Tigers got this dude out of the bullpen throwing 100 miles an hour. Now everybody's got a dude throwing 100 miles an hour out of the bullpen.
And if you don't, you are way behind the curve.
If you don't, you're the Colorado Rockies. But everybody's got a guy other than the Rockies that throws 100 miles an hour coming out of their bullpen, and we don't even know who they are. Like, there'll be a guy come up for the A's for 2 weeks, kid from the Dominican Republic who comes up, and he's their last guy out of the bullpen while somebody's hurt, and he's throwing 101 miles an hour with a slider that would make Babe Ruth faint on sight, and he's just a guy. So there are more guys than there used to be. For circling back to Carlos Hernandez, who can do the thing that Carlos Hernandez does, which is throw the ball stupid hard. But him being able to do that is still really valuable. And as long as he can do that, he's going to be an option. Somebody I think is interesting. It's all about command for him. And it's not just command like in the strikes, like throwing strikes. Obviously, you'd like to see him walk fewer than 4 guys per 9 like he did last year. But it's also command within the strike zone itself. Because a lot of times when Carlos Hernandez does throw a strike, it's a hittable strike. 100 miles an hour down the middle is still down the middle. That's why he gave up 10 home runs in 70 innings last year. So,
but at least he can get in the strike zone, because there's a certain pitcher that I watched pitch for a year or plus for the Nationals that would throw 103 but hit the backstop. He played for the Cubs for a season. Do you remember Henry Rodriguez?
Of course I remember Henry Rodriguez. Of course.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
But see, and there's
but
the thing
that's
about
back when baseball was like, we got 100 mile an hour guys. It doesn't matter what they do.
Well,
now they've kind of synced themselves to actually have control.
Jordan Hicks is the same way. And is he still with the Cardinals?
No, Jordan Hicks went to San Francisco, and they're going to try to start him, is what I have heard, which is wild.
I wouldn't.
All the best.
Yeah, best of luck to them doing that. Like when he came up, it was, because he could throw 105. Isn't that what he could throw?
Yeah.
what good is that if you don't know where the ball's going?
It's
Seriously,
not.
what good is that?
They've got signs up at Nationals camp this year that say nobody cares how hard you throw ball 4, which is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, but that is going to get so overused by like 8th grade Little League coaches forever.
But it should be. That's important for you. Important to learn how to pitch when you're that age, because you don't throw 98 miles an hour, and you probably never will. But if you can't get guys out and throw strikes, then youth baseball becomes this unwatchable parade of little kids gearing up and trying to blow out their arms. Nobody cares how hard you throw a ball 4. Damn straight. I would have, if that had happened when I was in high school, I would have had it tattooed on me.
We're going to venture very quickly into parents ruining sports for children again here territory. I feel like it's worse for baseball than any other sport.
Worse is hard to quantify. Travel baseball, the proliferation of travel baseball, again, that's a huge change in I just missed it. I'm 37 years old. I just missed it. My younger brother is 4 years younger than me, and he was he was kind of on like the leading edge of this is becoming a thing. Yeah. And now you don't play Little League anymore if you're good. Like if you are good, you don't play in the neighborhood Little League. Somebody finds you, puts you on a travel team, and you go play, 40, 50 tournament games a year. You got. When I was a kid, they were called tournament teams because nobody knew what to call them. It wasn't travel ball yet. It was just you were on a tournament team. And now it's like that has essentially cannibalized local Little League in a lot of communities.
It's even cannibalized just like high school, like American Legion baseball.
Yes. Yep. Oh,
like,
100%.
In my last job, we covered American Legion baseball. They won the state championship last year, so we traveled into the state tournament. But there was guys. So in West Virginia, I don't know if they nationally changed the rules or something, but you can have guys that are also travel players. So they would come in and then they'd be gone, and then you'd see them again in a week and a half, and then they wouldn't be allowed to pitch this day, but then they would come back 3 days later because they could pitch.
Well, I dealt with that coaching a Legion C ball a decade ago back in my home state of Colorado, coaching Legion C's your incoming freshman, right? And you'd have games scheduled and, you're going to be missing a quarter of your team because they're all on the same club team, and they're going to go play in that tournament instead of go play with their high school teammates because, and I had a kid tell me this with a straight face, I've heard there'll be scouts from the Yankees there. Not to see you. You can't make Legion A. They're not watching the Yankees. I didn't tell him this. I just patted him on the head and sent him off to go get his arm loose. They're not watching your kid if he's not playing varsity. I swear to you, they're not. Oh, God, I could yell about this for hours.
But the thing about that, though, is, like, I don't blame a 15-year-old for dreaming big. Like, you hear the Yankees are going to be there? Hell yeah, I'm gonna wear my freshest clothes. I'm going to make sure all my friends look good. I'm going to, make my voice sound deep so I sound really grown up when I talk to these guys. Like, I don't blame them. You know who I blame? The people who tell them the Yankees are there to see you. I blame Dad, who is like, you're gonna throw 800 pitches the day before. You're gonna be so loose, or you're gonna be tuned up, and they're gonna see that you are the next David Cohn. They're gonna see that in you, a 15-year-old from Colorado,
or the coach that says, "I'm gonna get you in front of Yankee scouts." Yes, your son, your 14-year-old who's not even good enough to get scouted by the varsity coaches at the high school he's going to. I'm going to get your kid in front of the Yankee scouts. That will be $2,500, please.
Oh, okay, I get it. Was not expecting this conversation, this segment to go here. I had a conversation this past summer, with Rick Bloomquist. We were chatting about this at the Shawnee County Hall of Fame banquet.
Sure.
And he was telling me it is harder and harder on kids and families because you're told now the way you compete and get better and get to college or wherever is, well, you got to play travel ball. You got to play AAU basketball. You got to play travel baseball. We are beyond even like, wow, if you're low income, you can't afford to do this anymore. We are now to, if you are middle class, you can barely afford to do this stuff.
Yeah, baseball in particular is becoming more and more a country club sport. And
which is insane if you know anything about the history of baseball.
Yes, it makes me incredibly sad to see it. By the way, the Royals have tied the Rockies in the 5th inning of their spring training game. Nate Eaton has homered.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's a thing. Also, Vinny Pasquantino has just walked with the bases loaded to tie the game at 2.
Wow. Who is this gentleman? Gavin Hollowell.
He's bad.
All we need to know.
I saw him pitch a couple times for the Rockies at the end of last year, and there's a reason the Rockies only won 59 games.
We've got Random Question Tuesday coming up next. Then we'll hear from Andy Reid later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Random Question Tuesday time here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you. First one for me, music question today. I guess it doesn't have to be just music. What is your favorite crossover of genres in some sort of media? This was inspired because today I was heating up my lunch in the microwave right next to the 94.5 Country Studios, and I heard Beyonce's new single, her country song.
Texas Hold'em?
Yeah. Which I wouldn't exactly call a country song. It's a pop song that has a little twang to it. It's fine. It's not a bad song. But she is, I believe, the first black woman to top the country charts like on her own, not just as a writer like Tracy Chapman, but like with her own song. So do you have a favorite song or other, genre crossover piece of media?
That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question.
The opposite, your least favorite, would be the time that Lil Wayne tried to do a metal album. It's one of the worst albums ever recorded.
Playing guitar and singing about his line of skateboard apparel.
Just a tragedy of American popular music.
So many drugs.
I guess I do really like the Linkin Park Jay-Z.
Yeah, that probably fits, honestly. That's a great song.
Like just the album, I guess. The multiple songs, but like Numb specifically when it was used.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That counts.
Yeah, that was really successful. Like crossover art.
I do have
that. Man, I was trying to think of like a live action like version of
sure.
Man, I don't know. That there's nothing that comes immediately to mind.
It's not a very wide swath of various things. Like it has to be a fairly specific.
I love when Garth Brooks insisted that his name was actually Chris Gaines and he was a rock star now. That was great.
So persona made for a movie that never actually happened.
Yeah, that ruled.
Chris Gaines is my number one favorite crossover.
I enjoyed that a great deal.
All right, while we think of some more answers to this, Dan, what was your question for today?
Based on the travel ball phenomenon that we were just discussing, give me a story from a time that you went out of town with a team or a group. Give me a good story.
All right, I'll give you one from when I played, I guess. What I only did 1 year of travel volleyball when I was in high school. I plateaued at good. Like I was above average for a high school volleyball player, but I knew my future wasn't in it, so I only played 1 year of travel ball. I played on the cheap team in the suburbs and still saw what it cost. I was like, man, I don't need to really worry about finances, but good Lord, that is a lot of money. We played a weekend tournament in Wisconsin, February. I want to say it was February 5th and 6th of 2011. That is a significant weekend because that was the weekend of Super Bowl 45, which is notable for me because the Green Bay Packers played in that Super Bowl.
Yes, they did.
And I thought, the 5th and 6th of February 2011. And I thought, if I'm stuck in the state of Wisconsin, unable to watch the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, I am going to lose. I might quit. We only have 3 weeks left in the season. I might just quit. I might just bow out. I played on the B team of our club, which we were okay. We weren't anything special. It was a bunch of kids who were going to go pro in something other than sports. We were so bad on day one of the tournament, lost every single match we played. We were in the first group to play on Sunday. I got home with 3 hours to spare before the Super Bowl.
Nice.
We were up at the crack of dawn to play volleyball the next day. Got 3 matches in by 11:30 and got to go home. It was awesome. So I had plenty of time to gear up. We stopped at a gas station and got some Super Bowl merch on the way out of town. Oh yeah, it was great. So yeah, that was my best and really only travel sports story, but it worked out for me.
I played Legion baseball in high school, and the summer before my senior year, that Legion A varsity summer is one of the best summers of my life. We had so much fun. We played a tournament in Billings, Montana. Played the old Cobb Field. George Brett played minor league ball at Cobb Field. Babe Ruth played at Cobb Field. It was a great historic ballpark. Anyhow, at our team hotel, a couple of the resident knuckleheads, and I say that affectionately, on our team decided that they would prank one of their parents by pretending that one of them had nearly drowned in the pool. That the hotel pool, something had gone wrong, and he had swallowed a lot of water, and he wasn't breathing, and we needed help from, I think the dad was a firefighter. Great prank if nobody else had seen it and called the cops. We almost got thrown out of our hotel.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Bed checks. Rest of that trip.
Yeah, I believe that.
The old duct tape over the door.
Yeah.
See if you left the door.
God.
Yeah. We were subject to bed checks.
Spencer, we got about a minute here. Do you have a travel story?
So it's not with me playing, but it was when I was covering a team. It was 2 years ago when we went to Myrtle Beach for the high school tournament. Obviously, we're broadcasters. We work for companies that don't want we get the cheapest hotel possible, right?
That's the biz.
So we go in the hotel. They're renovating it. If you can see, I'm air quoting. They're just a bunch of stuff everywhere. There's wires in the hallway. I go to put the card in the door, and I didn't even get the card in the door because it hit the little side of the thing.
Yeah.
And the door opened. There was no lock on the door. And I was like, how are we supposed to go put our stuff in here, like our broadcast equipment in here when we go to eat dinner? Like, we're not going to leave it in a car.
Yeah.
So we get refunded, get an Airbnb. It takes about 5 hours, whatever. That first night in that Airbnb, right next to the Myrtle Beach Pelican Stadium, actually.
Nice.
It's 3 a.m. and I just hear boom, boom, boom outside.
Not great.
Not great.
I once, for the state tournament, stayed in a hotel where they told me when I checked in, hey, the lock doesn't work. So if you want to take your valuables, you should go put them in your car when you're not in the room. Oh, sick. Awesome. Love that. Coming up on the other side of this break, we'll hear from Big Red Andy Reid here on 580 Sports Talk. NFL Combine is starting up this week in Indianapolis, and today all sorts of dignitaries from teams all over the league spoke to the media, including earlier Brett Veach, and right now Andy Reid, who spoke a little bit earlier on today. Let's hear what Big Red had to say this afternoon while he spoke in Indianapolis.
Before we get started, I just want to put a shout out to the Gavin and Lopez family for their loss with Lisa, and for the people of Kansas City. You know, she was a person. All right. Before we get started, I just want to put a shout out to the Gavin and Lopez family for their loss with Lisa, and for the people of Kansas City. You know, she was a personality there, and a very good human being, first of all, and we'll all miss her, as I know her family will. And then just a positive word on Kansas City. That's not what Kansas City is all about. And then for our youth of America, that we gather together and make this is great. You're our future, and as great as we can make this place, we want to do that. And so we can turn this, which was a negative, into a real positive with just a little togetherness and love. I think we can fix a lot of problems here. So the Kansas City Chiefs, on a different note here, in our year, I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of the organization for a job well done, the coaching staff, and how they went about their business. I just think it was top notch for Brett Veach and his staff, and what they put together for the coaches to work with was great. And then Mark Donovan, as the president of the organization, for him and his staff of just organizing us and making sure we're all going in the right direction, and with the new things that are lying ahead of us here with facilities and so on. I think it's a tribute to all the work that they're putting in here. And then Clark Hunt and the Hunt family for really giving all of us, Mark, Brett, myself, and everybody that works with us, an opportunity to be successful. We appreciate that, and look forward to moving forward here. What has happened has happened. Now we're in the present, and this is a great reminder of that when we come here with all these new players and opportunities to gather new players. Again, this is our first taste of that as coaches. Brett and his staff have been locked in a room here for a week or two since the Super Bowl, and they've been just grinding out players. But from a coach's standpoint, it's nice to get down here and have a chance to meet face-to-face with these kids and see what they're all about. Anyways, time's yours.
Coach, Frank Humphries had some inconsistencies with his snaps. He saw at the end the great relationship. You see the Mahomes talking to Reid, said he couldn't get him the ball because the snap was low. What does Reid need to do to ensure that in the future is more consistent with snap? Yeah,
listen, Creed is a diligent player. He's a great player, and so he'll take care of that. I'm not worried about that. He's a relentless worker, and we'll get all that taken care of.
Coach, can you talk about the kind of emotions that this team seemed to thrive off of, maybe more than any other Chiefs team, and kind of how you were able to balance that and keep it in check throughout the season?
Yeah, so from an emotional standpoint, the guys feed off of each other. It starts with Travis. He's been there the longest, and he's got phenomenal energy. So the guys feed off of that energy, along with Patrick and Chris Jones. These are our leaders, senior leaders, and I can take it right down the list of guys. The Sneeze McDuffies. We got young and old, but the older guys are the ones that really have built the foundation there, along with our ex-players that have been with us. So, there's great emotion, and they felt honored to be. We all felt honored to be in a situation where we made the playoffs, and it was a great reward for the hard work of this long season, the ups and downs that we had. So they were revved up and ready to go.
Think of Veach ending the season with long seasons after Reid came from the Jets. Do you expect to see the plans for 2024?
Yeah. So listen, I'm not saying anything about the Jets because everybody doesn't fit into every situation. That's just not how it works in this league. We've had McCole. We kind of know how he fits into our scheme, and he did a nice job with that. He came in, worked hard, and was productive for us. And he had a couple of hiccups early, but he worked through those. We knew he would, and ended up having some great plays in the Super Bowl.
What advice would you give a high school student looking to get where you're at today?
Yeah, if you're the student, I'm going to tell you that you're doing the right things by surrounding yourself with the people here and that are in the National Football League. I was fortunate enough to start. I did my student teaching at a high school level, and I kind of worked my way up from there, Division II non-scholarship, and sold hot dogs every Tuesday and Thursday. So it's not all about the glamour, of this. But any avenue you can get in, work hard and be honest, and get a good quarterback.
I think years since Mahomes got drafted, he was an unorthodox prospect. How he plays. Do you think the league has kind of come around to that style in the 7 years since he's been drafted?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they've come around, but he's had an influence, I think, in his own way of and style. I think that's opened eyes, especially from that type of an offense. Everybody kind of doubted whether that type of an offense could work. I mean, Lamar is the same way. Can that work? Well, it's pretty good. I mean, I stood here and I was asked about Lamar Jackson on what position I thought that he could play, whether it was running back or wide receiver. And I'm going, why not try quarterback, right? So give him an opportunity. And he's been the best player since he was a little kid. I think guys are realizing that. These guys don't get where they're at by not they just didn't transform into these great players. They've been great for a long time.
Why is evaluating talent at quarterback so challenging? So many misses on that. Where are some mistakes you try to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. Where's the staff at? Are they in their last year? Are they in their first year? What offense are you asking this guy to be in? Are you willing to work with his strengths and try to better his, the things that he's not strong at, his weaknesses? Are you willing to stand before you guys and kind of protect that guy so he can grow a little bit? All of those things come into play. There are a lot of things that take place that help mature a quarterback into these great ones that we have. The league's in great hands, by the way. So we've got some real good ones playing.
Quarterback evaluation. Ryan Paul said that he looks for artists and surgeons. How do you go about, helping players find that balance when you're developing?
Yeah, you try to teach. I mean, that's what we're here for. So we're here to teach, and there's it's not all about the plays. It's about how you teach them, and then how you handle the player and how you teach that player. So there's a lot that goes into it. Good job. Good job.
What are your thoughts on Eric Bieniemy and kind of the path that he's gone out to UCLA and not getting in?
Yeah, listen. I'm a big believer in Eric Bieniemy. Wherever he goes and whatever he does, he's going to be good at. So he did that at Washington. He helped change a culture there, and that they'll build on. He's going to demand greatness out of you, and he'll do the same thing at UCLA. I mean, he'll do a great job. He's in charge. It's hard when you're in charge of something to have to step back. He's got an opportunity here to do his thing on offense, and he knows the landscape. He's been at UCLA before, and maybe he's a head coach at the college level, but I thought he should be a head coach here. But if it doesn't happen, maybe he has that opportunity there to do it. But I'm a big fan.
What do you think about how you evaluate quarterbacks? From the time you've gotten to the league until now, how have you changed the way you evaluate quarterbacks? What do you value differently?
Yeah, not a whole lot different. I was blessed to play the offensive line, so I always say offensive linemen kind of know. You can tell a good quarterback from a bad quarterback. So I've tried not to lose that focus on it. It's pretty simple, but you got to spend time with them and get to know them a bit, and try to give them put them in different situations as much as you can in environments like this, and visiting them at their campuses or having them come visit you, talking to their coaches, and then talking to the players around them. So I like to. No, I wouldn't say there. I really wouldn't say there is. No.
Is your growth becoming a coach as you continue to evolve? Is there any books or anything that stands out that you've read that
Yeah, well, I mean, as football books, Bill Walsh's book is probably the best out there. But there are a lot of guys who have written books, from Tony Dungy to, a lot of Hall of Fame guys have written books, and they're all good. I've read them all, but Bill's is how you want to be a head coach or a leader of an organization. Here it is, mapped out for you.
What do you do as a head coach now to make sure that you're sort of aware of people who are just starting out, just beginning of that pipeline, and especially people who don't have, sort of an orthodox into the league, and just making sure that you're aware of the entire pipeline of people who were where you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to that because I got to start at the ground level and work my way up, and I don't really just want to hire somebody. I want somebody that's going to bust their tail, has an appreciation for the game, and is loyal. You put in there, you want them to be innately smart and good, easy to work with too. So, or willing to work with. So, but that's how I look at that. Yeah.
Is that a challenge to sort of know who those people are, either in the college game or maybe other NFL teams?
You try to stay up on all that. I talk to everybody. High school, I still go to dinner with all my high school coaches, so I could try to keep in tune. They're 86 years old, 87 years old. One's turning 80. It just turned 88. So it's, but there's a great nucleus of guys in the city there that I know, and so I try to stay in touch with those guys, and then at the college level do the same thing. So. Yeah, Donovan did a nice job for us. Good senior leader and ton of experience. We've got a young kid that we drafted, and I thought he was a good example to him.
After the win, the Chiefs would be a dynasty. Now, leaving the field, he said that it was a sport to a dynasty. What's the last couple of pieces to the dynasty?
Yeah, listen, that's up to you guys. You just try to make sure you have the team put together and then try to go win that next game. And if you can keep it that simple, then you stay on task and focus. And then if you guys call it a dynasty, hats off to you. Let's just keep going. Right, that's our main thing.
Standpoint, do you think that two-sport athletes have a better advantage in this kind of current NFL than one who just did football their entire career?
I love kids that have an opportunity to play everything. But that's how I grew up. You played everything, and you were exposed to everything, and then whatever direction you end up going, you went with. So I still encourage that. I've got 12 grandkids, and try to encourage the older ones to go try it. Go try something. If you have a little interest in it, let's go. Give it a whirl.
Couple more for Coach, guys. Couple more for Coach. Yeah,
I should have mentioned that at the beginning. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but The law enforcement folks were unbelievable during the situation. We had them from all over the place, and they just immediately jumped in to cover you up mode and make sure that everybody was safe, the best they possibly could with 1 million people there. But I thought they handled everything tremendously, and it wasn't. I'm not just saying that from my standpoint, but from I had a bird's eye view of things going on. So I thought they were great.
Coach, you also talked consistently about how appreciative you are about those coaches. 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. The success recently changed your perspective on what
I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to. I mean, you know this. We've been together before, so you know this. I think it's a little bit monotonous, but it's the preparation that really matters. That's what's real. So there's a lot of hoopla that goes on with it, but that preparation and to stay grounded, stay humble, all those things become very important because the parity in this league is like that. And if you're off a tick, somebody's going to whack you, and you don't want that to take place. You want to stay as focused as you can on the job at task, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to win in this league. It's hard to win a Super Bowl in this league. So anything that's knocking you off to one side or the other, not good.
So that is Andy Reid speaking earlier today at the Combine in Indianapolis. Coming up to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we'll dive into some of these specific comments from both Coach Reid and from Brett Veach earlier today. And some, I don't know if you could really call it news, but a report from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN from just a little bit earlier this hour that the options for the future for L'Jarius Sneed are as wide open now as they have ever been. What does that mean for Kansas City? What does that mean for Sneed? What does that mean for the rest of the NFL? We will get to all of that. We will also get to today's What is Wrong with You, and we will talk to Michael Swain later on in the 4 o'clock hour as well, as he joins us for Jayhawk Weekly to talk all about Kevin McCullough, tonight's KU-BYU game, and much more on the Kansas Jayhawks front. All that's coming up after our national and local news right back here on 580 Sports Talk. halfway home on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. He is Spencer Dupuis. We are here with you until 5:45 today. Off just a little bit early because we've got high school hoops sub-state action. The Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship coming your way tonight. First, it is the Washburn Rural Girls at 6 o'clock taking on Wichita Northwest from the House of Blues, the Washburn Rural Activity Center. Then, as soon as that game comes to a close, we will send you in progress to Seaman versus Topeka West in 5A boys action from the Charger Dome at Topeka West High School. Spencer Dupuis will be on the call of that one. All coming up tonight on the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship on 580 WIBW. We will also have sub-state action coming up on Thursday this week. One of my favorite days of the year. Honest to God, one of my favorite broadcasting days, sports days of our calendar year here in town. Thursday always ends up, because we mostly cover 6A and 5A programs in the city.
We do the city teams, the seven teams that have been longtime Acacia members in the capital city. That's kind of our bread and butter. That's where we go and do our games throughout the season. But as you mentioned, they're 5A and 6A. So typically when they play in a sub-state championship game, that's Friday and Saturday. But that leaves Thursday. And Thursday, we get to go exploring.
Oh, it is the absolute best. So this Thursday, our plan is, I'll tell you right now, plan to head out to the Riley County 3A boys sub-state.
You ever been to Riley, Kansas?
I have been only for the sake of delivering Pigskin and Hoops magazines. Otherwise, I have never been.
So you've been all the way out there?
Oh, yeah. I've driven past the old Nelson's Landing. I've been through Leonardville. I've been to the high school out there. Oh, yeah.
Now, I have not. See, this will be my first venture into Riley, Kansas. I've been a lot of places in the state of Kansas. That's what happens when you work in the largest city, the capital city, and also completely in the northwest corner of the state on 3 separate occasions over the last 10 plus years. But this will be my first time going to Riley. Riley County is hosting a sub-state this year, and we are going to have boys action on Thursday night from there. The number 1 team in the state in Class 3A, Beloit, is in that sub-state. Silver Lake is going to try and knock them off. And then Rossville takes on Nemaha Central in the other game on Thursday night. And we're really excited to get to be there.
Yeah, Silver Lake's boys, they played a good game yesterday against St. Mary's.
Yes.
Bill Spradling's group gave them a run.
Yes, and beat them twice in the regular season.
Yep.
So for Silver Lake to turn that around, and you know what they say, hard to beat a team 3 times. And it certainly was the case. St. Mary's found that out last night as their bid to return to state for a 3rd straight year fell short. The Silver Lake Eagles are moving on. 6-win increase and counting perhaps for Shannon Kruger in his first year as the coach of the Eagles.
Yeah, Coach Kruger killing it over there. He's been fantastic. And yeah, this Thursday of Sub-State Week, one of my favorites because there are so many good athletes, good coaches, good programs, and communities that really care about their schools around us, obviously in town and in the county, but around our Northeast Kansas area as well. And last year, we had some great games. We were out at Perry-LeCompton. Lat and I were doing the 3A girls sub-state, saw Silver Lake take on, I believe it was Silver Lake versus Mar Hill last year. And Silver Lake bullied them. Rossville had a big win last year. A couple years ago, we were up at Silver Lake, got to see some great games. I think it was, if I remember correctly, Sabetha and Nemaha Central duked it out in an incredible sub-state game.
I did a 4 overtime game once.
Yes.
At Silver Lake. Silver Lake St. Mary's boys. I want to say that was 2018. Did a 4 overtime game that night.
I have a very fond memory. I don't remember which year it was.
4 overtimes?
4 overtimes.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be a classic.
Gosh, I'm trying. That was at Silver Lake, right?
Yes.
Did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I think, 2019. I went out to Perry for 3A boys. You and Lat were at Topeka High, I think, for 6A girls. I don't know how the schedule worked out, but I had a double overtime game. We threw it back to you in town, like midway through the 3rd quarter, and then went right back to Perry for more 3A boys action.
I think that's
and
right.
I felt bad. It's like, I've got this great game going on. Dan and Lat have been waiting for an hour now to finally start their broadcast.
Yeah, we were just chilling, listening to you. It was fine.
heck of a game. It's one of my favorite weeks of the entire year, and then State right there with it next week. So plenty of fun basketball coming up. It starts tonight on the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship here on 580 WIBW. Coming up this hour, we'll talk a little Chiefs here in just a second. We've got What Is Wrong With You, and we will hear from Michael Swain later on this hour for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline as we get ready for KU versus BYU coming up tonight. Your comments on YouTube are welcome. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Head over to the channel, subscribe if you have not already. We would really, really appreciate that. And you can watch the YouTube stream, drop a comment. You can do the same on Facebook. Head to WIBW News on Facebook. Also streaming on Twitter on the @580 Sports Talk handle on Twitter, X, whatever you would like to call it. We heard from both Brett Veach and Andy Reid today talking at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, as general managers and coaches often do, almost always do. And then right before we heard from Andy Reid at the end of last hour, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN tweeted this information out. Chiefs have informed L'Jarius Sneed they are prepared to use the franchise tag and are open to consummate a trade off of it if no long-term deal is reached, per source. Sneed is agreeable to the scenario, giving him a chance to talk with other teams while KC remains in play. So, honestly, when you're considering every factor here, this is probably the way it works out the best for everybody. And I say that wanting the Chiefs to bring back L'Jarius Sneed because he's an awesome player and he's one of the best players on a really good defense. He's a guy who has a great relationship with Steve Spagnuolo. He's a homegrown guy who has developed from, a nice little player as a slot blitzer to one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL this season. So you've got the opportunity to bring him back. You've got the opportunity to bring him back either A, at a long-term deal while he's on the tag, or B, to at least have him for one more year. And it allows Sneed the opportunity to maybe go break the bank too. And he's going to get paid one way or the other when this deal happens. And obviously it would be better for him to either get traded into a long-term deal or to get a long-term extension from the Chiefs. But one way or the other, he is going to get paid. So it feels like this is probably going to work out. This is the best way it could work out for everyone. That being said, I'm a little surprised that this news came out today. I am a little bit surprised that this is so out in the open, because that leads me to believe the more likely outcome is a trade. Whereas I have believed up until this point, the more likely outcome is that he is going to stay in Kansas City.
Well, I think Brett Veach made it clear that job one this offseason for the Chiefs is Chris Jones.
Yeah.
I think that's at the top of the priority list, the top of the shopping list, however you want to look at it, that the Chiefs are prioritizing making sure that Chris Jones is on the team moving forward. And that means that L'Jarius Sneed is the second priority. And that can mean that we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure Chris Jones is on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then given the constraints on us after whatever we do with Jones, we're going to make an offer to L'Jarius Sneed, and it may not be enough. And we have to understand that it may not be a deal that is amenable to Sneed or his representation. And in that scenario, we want to give ourselves the flexibility of being able to retain the player on the tag and possibly trade the player to somewhere where he does get the money or the years, whatever it is that exactly he's looking for. So like you laid out, it's a win-win for both parties. But I think the fact that they've already advanced to this stage, to the point where this is now public knowledge, that would indicate to me too that it is more likely than not that we get to a point of a tag and trade.
And if the Chiefs do end up moving L'Jarius Sneed, they're going to get a haul for him. I don't know that you get exactly what you got for Tyreek Hill, but I don't know, elite number one outside cornerback with the flexibility to play inside, and you can play him in zone or man coverage. Like, that should net you a pretty solid haul, I would think. So if you're of the perspective that, yes, the prudent business move is to not pay him the big bucks, and you have to put your trust in this front office and coaching staff to get the most out of any players you get back and any draft picks you get back, and to then use your cap space as effectively as possible, well, let's be frank, the Chiefs have earned that benefit of the doubt. And this front office and the folks who draft these players have earned the benefit of the doubt. And you know what the best example of that is? You traded Tyreek Hill, and the guy you drafted with the first-round pick you got for him was Trent McDuffie. And as good as L'Jarius Sneed was this year, should have been an all-pro, Trent McDuffie was an all-pro. That is the kind of talent you can bring in. And even beyond that, look at the rest of this secondary. Look at the guys that this team have drafted, both at safety and at cornerback, whether it's slot or boundary alignment that you're looking at. And this is over the long haul. This team drafted Trent McDuffie. This team drafted later on in the draft L'Jarius Sneed. We know that you can get by and can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Watson or Joshua Williams as the starting cornerback. You know how we know it? Because the Chiefs did it last season. They won a Super Bowl with those guys as a starting cornerback. You've still got Najee Johnson, who had that great camp before getting hurt. You have Brian Cook, who's a safety, but a guy who you drafted who was playing maybe a little bit of a slow start to the season, but he was playing really good football before he got hurt this year. You have to trust that that spot is going to be filled adequately, and the Chiefs have by far earned that benefit of the doubt. And I think that probably gives you a little bit of excitement too, right? If you know you don't have to commit $19.8 million against the salary cap to L'Jarius Sneed, you can use that for any number of things. You can use that for Trey Smith extension, Creed Humphrey extension. You can use that for Mike Evans. You have a lot more flexibility, and I think that's always exciting as fans going into free agency, going into the offseason. Well, dang, we don't have to scrape by on the bottom of the barrel to make this work. We can go out and get better players, higher profile players, and obviously you'd more easily have the space to get something done with the more unique player of the two between Sneed and Jones in Chris Jones. So that is the bright side for one of these outcomes. But the flip side, and it's probably the more conservative, but not necessarily wrong way to view this, you know what you have. There is giving the benefit of the doubt, but still understanding there is risk involved with drafting a replacement player or having Jalen Watson step into a role that, frankly, he lost out on this year. He was the starter. This year, he was a backup in the defensive backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs. The sure thing is number 38, because we saw him play at an all-pro level all year long and shut down some of the best receivers in the NFL all year long. So I think you can view this positively from either direction, and that is why, it feels like a win-win, because, again, the Chiefs have won. In these tough decisions, the Chiefs have ended up winning. Look at the Tyreek Hill trade. Look at moving on from Tyrann Mathieu. They moved on from Tyrann Mathieu and won back-to-back Super Bowls with a secondary that got better and better.
Yeah.
That's wild to think.
He was an all-pro twice with the Chiefs. They said, no thanks, you're not even at 30 yet, and they got better. Like, that is remarkable.
Because the calculus was, like, they would have rather have kept Tyreek Hill, but it was Tyreek Hill on a market-setting contract for a wide receiver. They knew that was going to make it difficult to do the other business they needed to do to build the roster they needed to build moving forward. Kind of the same spot here. All things being equal, I think they'd love to have L'Jarius Sneed back on this roster, but can they have L'Jarius Sneed on a fair contract for both sides? The tag number is $18 million for Sneed.
19.8.
19.8.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I transposed the 8 and the 9. So 19.8, close to $20 million. If L'Jarius Sneed hit the free market, talking $20 million a year, $25 million a year, potentially. Between that and what you're already paying Kelsey and what you're already obviously paying Mahomes. Again, Mahomes is the biggest cap hit on the team. No team had ever won a Super Bowl with their quarterback as their highest cap hit before the Chiefs just did it this past year. So you're playing the game on hard because Mahomes is the quarterback with the highest cap hit. The player on your roster with the highest cap hit. You're paying your quarterback that kind of money. So your roster balancing, you're playing the game on hard. You have to figure out, can we pay L'Jarius Sneed fair market value and do the other business we need to do this offseason? If that business starts with signing Chris Jones and giving him something in the $25 to $30 million a year range, if that business includes filling your vacancy at tackle, filling a vacancy at wide receiver. Can you do all of that effectively while still paying L'Jarius Sneed in the $20 to $25 million a year range? And the answer to that might be no. Matt Connor of Arrowhead Addict just posted, since 2018, what players who were tagged and traded ended up getting in return. So 2018, Jarvis Landry was a tag and trade. Team trading Landry got a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick. Jadeveon Clowney was a tag and trade in 2019. The Seahawks sent a 3rd-round pick and 2 players to the Texans to get Clowney. Frank Clark was a tag and trade by the Seahawks that same year, outgoing. The Chiefs, remember, gave up a 1st and a future 2nd. But really, you can look at that trade as having been D Ford, because they got a 2nd-round pick for D Ford.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was D Ford and a 1st for Frank Clark. And that upgrade, I think, was probably worth it for the Chiefs, considering that D Ford didn't last 18 games into his $85 million contract he ended up signing with the 49ers. Yannick Ngakoue was a tag and trade in 2020, 2nd-round, a 5th-round pick. Devontae Adams, obviously, different stratosphere of player. They got a 1st and a 2nd back in return. If you can get a 2nd day and a 3rd day pick for L'Jarius Sneed, is that worthwhile? Like, would that be enough in return for a player who just gave you the season L'Jarius Sneed gave you? I have a hard time believing that would feel like enough. But again, you have the emotional attachment to this guy didn't give up a touchdown all year and was the baddest dude in the baddest secondary in football.
Man, it's a fascinating situation. And again, do you guys feel the same way, that the fact that this is coming out and they're making it so someone told Jeremy Fowler this? This is not like, and this isn't an insult to Jeremy Fowler either, but this is very clearly someone made sure this was clear, that this was out there and this is what the situation is. Does it feel like a trade is more likely here? Or am I missing the mark?
I'm going to say that I think you're right. I do think if we're at this stage of the information being out there, that if we already know that Sneed is able to talk to other teams, like, why would he want to do that if he thought the most likely outcome was being a Chief? If they were at a point of negotiating where Sneed did not feel as though he would be wearing any other colors but red and gold next year, why would he pursue conversations with organizations that were not the Chiefs?
Sure. No, I think that makes total sense. 100% sense. I think you can probably I would guess you can get 2 picks. If you can get 2 on day 2, I mean, you're feeling great. The comparison here, I just saw our pal Jordan Foote from Arrowhead Report say on Twitter, someone asked him, hey, Jalen Ramsey got 2 firsts and a 4th. What do you think L'Jarius Sneed can get you? Can he get you a 1st? And Jordan said, I think you can probably get an early to mid 2nd rounder. Like that would be considered a good trade, plus whatever else you throw in. I'd probably agree. Probably.
Yeah, like a 2nd-round pick. I don't think you're getting a 1st-round pick for L'Jarius Sneed. And that's not, like, think about the guys we just talked about who got 1st-round picks. Like, Frank Clark was an edge, so, positional value higher for an edge who was coming off a 15-sack season. That got you a number 1 pick or a 1st-round pick. Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers of a generation, that got you a 1st-round pick.
Yeah, he got a 1st and a 2nd, I believe.
L'Jarius Sneed played at an All-Pro level this past year. He was not named an All-Pro. He should have been. That's the first time in his career that he's played at that level. And there is an injury history. I don't know to what degree of concern it is for the Chiefs or whatever team evaluates him, but there is an existing injury history that you have to take into consideration. I think a 2nd-round pick being the most valuable thing you get back in return is probably realistic. And again, that's really hard to swallow. Like, we've got Vance in the YouTube comments. He was arguably the best lockdown corner in the NFL last season. The cap is going up. Keep him, in reference to L'Jarius Sneed. And look, if you're a Chiefs fan, you absolutely want to keep L'Jarius Sneed in Kansas City in those colors for as long as you can. But if Jones is the top priority, and that is what Brett Veach kind of said today, that job one is keep Chris Jones in Kansas City. I don't know that you're doing Jones at 25 to 30 million a year and Snead at 20 to 25 million a year and being able to maintain the depth pieces. Like, you're not bringing Drew Tranquil back probably if you do that. You're not bringing Mike Edwards back if you do that. You're going to lean on Wanye Morris at left tackle or a rookie at left tackle if you do that. Your options at running back, like you're probably going to need Deneric Prince to make the team next year because your options at running back get a little bit more limited. I think that the Chiefs, and given their history of not wanting to do long-term deals, long-term extensions with guys who are not elite players at their position with a lengthy track record of being elite, like L'Jarius Sneed has been a very good player who last year was a great player. Is he going to be, is this the new norm for his production? Because I think if the Chiefs thought it was, that if he were a top, going to reel off some all pros like Chris Jones has done the last couple of years, then they will do whatever it takes to keep that player, because that is what they do. When they have an opportunity to keep elite talent in-house, they make that happen. Do they think that L'Jarius Sneed is starting a phase of his career where he is elite year in and year out? Or do they think we got the best year out of L'Jarius Sneed, and now let's get what we can to make sure that we still got some financial flexibility?
Dan just hit it on the head right there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked so much about the allegories between the Chiefs dynasty and the Patriots dynasty, right? And why the Patriots found so much success. It was always move on a year early rather than a year late. And if you think you've hit that peak with Sneed, you don't want to pay defensive players, apparently, except Chris Jones, beyond 30, then yeah, that fits the bill. For what it's worth, I'm looking at the draft order for the second round right now. If the Chiefs want to pick in the top half of the second round for L'Jarius Sneed, there are 16 picks there between 33 and 48. 15 teams will make them. Washington's got 2 in that stretch. I think 12 of the 15 teams would make some sense. I think you could argue for 12 of the 15 teams. Green Bay doesn't make trades like that. New Orleans doesn't have any money, and the Raiders probably aren't going to trade with the Chiefs. Other than that, Carolina, New England, Arizona, Washington. Well, the Chargers probably won't trade with the Chiefs either. But Washington, Tennessee, the Giants, the Vikings, the Falcons, the Colts. Like, why wouldn't those teams trade with the Chiefs? I think you could end up getting a pretty good pick in the second round if you do indeed end up moving L'Jarius Sneed.
You just bring up Washington. That'd be intriguing because Kendall Fuller's a free agent, I believe, on the other half of 30. There's the other side of 30.
There's another Chiefs connection for you, too. Yeah. Super Bowl champion Kendall Fuller. Coming up next, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You. Then we'll talk to Michael Swain here on 580 Sports Talk. Time for a quick round of What is Wrong with You on 580 Sports Talk, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Our winner for the week is the guy from yesterday who committed the insurance fraud scheme, who had his buddy come up from Florida, the original man from Missouri, paraplegic, and had his buddy cut off his feet. And then they were going to say it was an accident farming, and they were going to collect insurance money. Only they never ended up filing the claim.
Because it was so obvious that it had nothing to do with a farming accident and everything to do with, like, a clean severing of the guy's feet.
Yeah. So he ended up with a lengthy hospital stay and no feet. And the other guy just went back to Florida scot-free, and they never even tried. And you can't charge them with a crime because they never actually did anything illegal. They were just morons.
Just cut off a guy's feet for nothing.
Nothing at all. So that's our winner for the week so far. Dan, you're up first today.
We're going to Ireland, and we meet 36-year-old Kamila Grabska. It's kind of a Polish-sounding name, Brendan. Grabska?
Let's see here. Where's our link? I would go with... I'd go with Grabska. Yeah.
Grabska. Kamila Grabska. Anyway... 36-year-old Kamila Grabska sued RSA Insurance. That's an insurance agency in the nation of Ireland. After a 2017 car crash she claimed caused her debilitating neck and back pain that prevented her from holding down a job for 5 years. The car accident was the result of somebody hitting Grabska's car from the rear and allegedly, that's an important word here, left her unable to carry her young children or complete household chores. She quit her job shortly after, received disability payments, and argued in the suit that her previous and future lost income totaled more than $500,000. However, in the course of the trial, a photograph emerged. We're going to put it on the YouTube stream. This is the photograph of Miss Grabska looking healthy as hell, participating in a Christmas tree throwing contest, which is apparently a thing. When did that contest occur? January 8th of 2018, nearly a year after the accident supposedly left her with disabling pain. There's also a picture of her holding the plaque for winning the contest. She tossed that tree so good, she won the Christmas tree throwing contest. It is a very large natural Christmas tree, the judge said, and it is being thrown by her in a very agile movement. I'm afraid I cannot but conclude the claims were entirely exaggerated. On that basis, I propose to dismiss the claim. Grabska, for her part, denied that she faked her injuries while in court, saying she was, quote, trying to live a normal life, but she lost the suit and roughly $800,000.
This is Action Man Mark.
Yes.
This is Action Woman Mark.
Yes.
No, that's what that is.
So she couldn't pick up her kids, but she could throw a 5-pound Christmas tree.
I'm
5 foot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
not
much
5
more than
pounds.
5
Yeah,
pounds.
more than 5 pounds. 5-foot spruce tree. As
Wow.
far as she was able. She won the contest. They put her in the newspaper for her proficiency in Christmas tree throwing.
That's remarkable fraud right there. That one's going to win today. Our second story, though, I did find this funny. Let's meet Connor Litka, a 21-year-old from Bloomington, Indiana, who tried to buy a Porsche in Louisville, Kentucky last week with a check for $78 million.
Well, that would buy you a Porsche.
When told by employees at Bluegrass Motorsport that they were not going to sell him the vehicle, he allegedly walked into the parts department, quote, looking for keys. He then ignored requests to leave the dealership until he got his vehicle. Fearing something bad was going to happen because of his behavior, a worker called the cops, who arrested Litka when he again refused to leave the Porsche dealership. He was then charged with criminal trespassing and disorderly conduct. However, a day before he tried to pass the $78 million check, he attempted to purchase a vehicle from a Land Rover dealership with a $12 million check.
Who's writing these checks?
The citation lists his residence as an apartment complex in Bloomington, 100 miles away from Louisville. He is a business student at Indiana University. Apparently not that good at it.
Who's yours?
We got to get to a break. Who wins today?
Definitely the Christmas tree throwing woman. And I think she may win the week. This is the last day of the week. We got our semifinals tomorrow. I think that this is wilder. Well, it's not wilder than having your feet cut off.
Yeah,
but it's funnier.
It's less grotesque for sure. I'm going to go with this one too. This one's funnier to remember than a guy who cut off his feet to not even commit a crime.
Yeah.
Just got his feet cut off because. So I'm going to go with that one too. That's 2 votes. That's enough. That is our new winner in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Michael Swain joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. .580 Sports Talk rolls on this Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Dorzinski, along with Spencer Dupuis, here with you. Dan Lucero on his way to the House of Blues for a little sub-state basketball action coming up later tonight here on 580 WIBW. Coming up tonight in Lawrence, we've got KU basketball action. KU taking on BYU. And that means it's time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. We're now joined by Michael Swain from Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go find all of Michael's coverage of KU at Fog.net. He joins us every Tuesday here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Michael, before we get to any game action itself, we might as well start with the big injury news with Kevin McCullough and Bill Self straight up saying he doesn't know if Kevin is going to be back at any point the rest of the way. Said he's not going to be worth a crap if he doesn't get to play until the NCAA tournament. I mean, how bleak or optimistic should we feel about this future this season for Kevin McCullough?
Yeah, I think to some degree it's kind of up in the air because it's going to come down to when Kevin feels like he can play again. That's how these kind of bone bruises work. We saw with Remy Martin, right, 2 years ago where he tried to play on it and it wasn't really effective and they sat him down for a month and, you know, he came back and it took him a couple weeks to find his rhythm again once he was able to kind of get going and feel comfortable again. And I think we're probably in a very similar situation here. I think, could Kevin play? Like, probably. That's how these bone bruises work. Like, you can technically play on it, but how much pain are you going to be in? what's the swelling going to look like the next day? What are the adverse effects that happen? And so for KU right now, obviously there's no reason to risk him. You look at the Big 12 standings right now, and Houston has taken control, and Iowa State seems like they're the team in the best position to take advantage of a Houston slip-up if that would happen. There's really no risk for KU, or reason to risk McCullough if you're KU at this point in time. So we'll have to see. I think I'm of the opinion, at least based on the information I have currently, that I think Kevin will come back this year. I think giving him some time off, you look at kind of that week leading into the Big 12 tournament, that will have been about a month since that Oklahoma game. And I think just looking at how things unfolded with Remy, and obviously these things are very different, but it wouldn't shock me if that's a similar kind of layoff for Kevin, and if he's able to come back this year. But I think for KU in the short term, it puts a lot of pressure on some of those bench guys that haven't been the most consistent this season. So obviously losing Kevin is huge for KU down the stretch of Big 12 play, but I think, like Bill Self said, getting him for March when Kansas actually has a chance to win things is the key. And so we'll have to see, right? That's kind of how this type of injury works. It's not going to be a pulled hammy or a pulled groin or anything like that, where you can kind of say, hey, it's 6 weeks, it's a month, he'll be back at this time. Like, this is kind of ambiguous because it's just going to come down to kind of the pain level and kind of how the swelling looks.
Do you think this is the kind of thing, Michael, where maybe, and I'm just throwing out some ideas here, but this is the kind of thing where he could return maybe a little bit earlier, maybe for the entire Big 12 tournament, and he could play on a minutes restriction, or maybe he ends up being a bench guy for the NCAA tournament if that's what it takes to get him as managed as possible? Or is that still just too ambiguous, too up in the air to know with his status kind of in question?
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if we saw maybe something similar to what Kevin did last year, right? You got to remember that, Kevin played early in the Big 12 tournament and then, also missed games in the Big 12 tournament. So it would not shock me completely if you look at KU's schedule in the Big 12 tournament. If you decide, hey, let's see how he does on that first round game, which would be on a Thursday. See how he does playing 15 minutes. If the swelling goes up, nope, he's done until the first week in the end. If he feels okay, then I think you give him a day off that Friday, and if he is able to make it, then maybe you play him on that Saturday in the championship game and see how it goes. So I think there's kind of a balancing act in the USC where, on the one hand, you obviously want to play him, and you want him to have a season going into the NCAA tournament, right? That's the big thing I've talked about on the show last couple weeks, is how important a rhythm is. Like, you can't just drop him in a round of 32 game and expect Kevin McCullough to be Kevin McCullough. Like, that's just not going to happen. I don't care who you are. Basketball is a rhythm sport. So I think finding an opportunity for him to at least get some game reps is going to be really important for KU to get the best version of Kevin McCullough it can get. And so I think the Big 12 tournament is going to be a really crucial time for him in his availability in the postseason.
We're chatting with Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. You can go find Michael on Twitter as well, at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. As for the game this past weekend when KU takes down Texas, and it always feels so good to watch anybody beat Texas, but especially KU. The big story of the day, has Nick Timberlake arrived? Is it finally Timby time in Lawrence?
We'll have to see. Ask me that question tomorrow morning, and I could probably give you a better answer. I was looking at this, though, and Nick's played well in his starts. You look at the 3 games he started so far, he's shooting above 50% from the field. He's averaging 11 points per game, and to put that in perspective, you look at all the other games this season that he's come off the bench, and he's averaging like 3.5 points per game, and he's shooting like 35% from the field. So it seems to me like he is a type of player that when he has the ability to jump into a game and have rhythm from the get-go, and that comes from starting, right, where you're able to immediately start to get in the flow of the game, it feels like to me like he is the type of guy that needs that. And I don't know if we'll see it again tonight, but I think after starting at Towson for so many years, it probably is a little bit different game-wise and feel-wise to come off the bench and having to get up to speed in a Big 12 game. So he's done some positive things. I think he obviously avoided any sort of disastrous stretch at the end of the Texas game that he maybe had against Baylor. So I think for him, like, the trend line is going in the right direction. And look, there's not a better time for that to happen than right now, because obviously KU without McCullough needs extra scoring. Timberlake provides that, but heck, even if McCullough comes back, there's some things Timberlake is showing right now that makes you feel, okay, hey, maybe he can give you 15 minutes in an NCAA tournament game and provide that floor spacing. So maybe Hunter Dickinson can play in more space. So I think overall, like, Timberlake trend line headed in the right direction, but as we've seen with some of these bench guys this season, that trend line can be going up, and then all of a sudden all it takes is one performance and things kind of come crashing down. So I think tonight's going to be really big.
Is Hunter the most important player for KU down the stretch?
That's a good question. Maybe. I think you look at what he does scoring-wise and just being a focal point. Yeah, that's really important, but how many times do we see it where in the NCAA tournament, it is really hard to consistently get the ball to the big man, right? How many times have we seen really, really good teams that are, have big men as their focal points fall short because another team does a good job of keeping that big man from getting the ball? So I almost continue to think that something like DeJuan Harris really is going to be the barometer for KU, because when he plays like he did against Texas, when he is attacking the rim, when he's finishing around the rim, when he's not turning the ball over, the offense looks so much better because the ball moves. And when he is playing poorly, and that means there's slow decision-making, he's not attacking the rim, he is turning the ball over, that's when this offense just looks awful and looks just like they can't do anything right. And so while Dickinson might be the guy that is going to continue to get these huge numbers and he's going to put up points in the Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament, I kind of think that KU needs that catalyst, because they don't have a Jalen Wilson that can be that guy at times. So I think a lot continues to ride on DeJuan Harris's shoulders, because he is the guy that has to be the driving force for KU, because when he is off, right, we've seen it. It just throws everything else off and the pieces don't really fit.
If Hunter Dickinson is playing at his best, though, and I understand, the importance of guard play when you get to the NCAA tournament, and that is a big deal. When he is at his best, does that feel like something unique that KU has? And I know Zach Edey is going to win National Player of the Year again. I know it's not perfectly unique because that guy is there for Purdue, but does it feel like something KU can not rely on because of the reasons you just pointed out, but does it feel like something that KU is just always going to have in its back pocket that, bleep it, Hunter down there somewhere?
Totally. I think you think about the different matchups, right, that Hunter has faced this season. You look at a game like Oklahoma, where they don't necessarily have the best center in the world. Well, if you look in the NCAA tournament, right, if KU comes up against a team that maybe doesn't have the best center in the world, maybe it's a 6'10" unathletic white guy that can't really do too much on the perimeter.
Tanner
like,
Groves.
that is the type of guy that Hunter can go and get 25 and 15 against. And that's when the offense will be, at a different level, because the skill and the ability for Hunter to kind of use his angles and use those little jump hooks, like, that's incredible. Where Hunter has issues is those really hyper-athletic big men. You think about what Texas Tech had at center and how bad Hunter played then. You think about some of those games, and those are the types of players that give Hunter trouble. And so I think he is unique because he has such incredible feel and touch and skill that it's just so different than any other, I think, really big man in this conference, and honestly probably in the country, because I just don't know if there's many guys that have that same combination. And so obviously the 3-point shot hasn't really been falling lately. I think that probably has to do with legs, because the numbers have basically fallen off since like the second week of Big 12 play, when Hunter started to play kind of those the 33+ minute games. So I think for KU, he provides a very unique focal point of the offense. And you're right, he's not going to National Player of the Year, but I think he's one of the more unique players in college basketball.
Wrapping things up with Michael Swain from Fog.net. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you head over to Fog.net to check out all of Michael's great work covering the Kansas Jayhawks, and follow him on Twitter at mswain247. As for this game coming up tonight, Michael, at Allen Fieldhouse, KU versus BYU, does this essentially come down to just how well KU can guard the three? Because BYU likes to shoot it. They're good at shooting it, and they're going to do it early and often. Is that going to be the X factor in this game?
Yep, you nailed it. Because KU does not shoot a high volume of threes. And I think Bill Self pretty much laid it out perfectly. If you want to look at points per possession, basically BYU only has to shoot 33%. tonight, and they are at 1.0 points per possession. And KU needs to shoot 50% from 2 to be at 1.0 points per possession. Like, it just shows you how well KU has to play offensively to match the type of game that BYU can have from 3, and that's technically, below season average. So I think for this game, it's going to be a lot of trying to run BYU off the 3-point line. BYU is actually a decent 2-point shooting team. I think they shoot about 58% from 2. So they're a team that when they do get inside the arc, they're able to convert efficiently, mostly because they're attacking closeouts. But I think for this type of game, it's just going to come down to how well KU can guard it. And is BYU going to have one of those, hot shooting nights we've seen teams have against KU, not even this year, but just kind of in years past as well. So I really do think that is kind of basketball can be a very simple game sometimes. Does BYU make a lot of shots tonight? That's going to be the answer, right? That's going to decide the game.
The talk about Nick Timberlake earlier, focusing a lot on the offensive side because he was brought in to be an offensive player. We think of him as a shooter. We think of him as a scorer. Defensively, though, if he's in the starting lineup, he's got to be able to guard on the perimeter. He's got to be able to lock his man down as best as possible. Can KU trust him in this matchup to be able to handle a matchup on the perimeter against guys who are going to keep challenging him?
KU's got to hope they can trust him because I think he is really going to be I don't know about X factor, but I think he's going to be kind of a little important block for KU because if he cannot guard and he continues to get lost, whether it be off the ball or off of screens, it's going to be bad and it's going to be really tough for KU because that means guys are going to get open. And if Nick can slide and can stay with guys for BYU and just provide a threat, right? You don't have to be there, get in passing lanes, but if you can just stay with the guy and stay in his airspace, it just makes life a whole lot harder on them. So I just think generally, I think you're spot on. Like a lot of this defense tonight is going to come down to how well Timberlake can guard, because if he can hold his own, all of a sudden things can look a lot smoother because you're not having to compensate for Nick or whoever's in that spot not being up to the level. So I think you're right. I think Nick's going to be a really important player tonight.
One last thing for you, Michael, before we let you go. This past weekend, you were there for the Sunflower Showdown at Allen Fieldhouse, KU's women versus K-State. Heck of a game, low-scoring game. What was it, 58-55 final score? Samaya Nichols, pretty dang impressive, and it feels like that KU team may have just barely held on to a spot in the NCAA tournament with that win.
Yeah, so we'll see, right? I think they got a big game against UCF midweek. That one's going to be on the road. UCF, not great. If you look at the bracketology for women's college basketball, it looks like KU's kind of on the bubble right now. I think the latest thing I saw today was that they're one of the last 4 in right now. To me, it feels like, hey, KU's got to get a win against a UCF on the road and then maybe get one win in the Big 12 tournament to feel pretty good about their chances. But I think just from what I saw on Sunday, man, Samaya is incredible. Like, I don't know if I've seen a player with that much kind of poise, regardless of gender or sport, right? That type of poise where you're playing in a rivalry game, it's close, and everybody on your team, everybody on your coaching staff, everybody in the building wants you to have the ball down the stretch and knows you are going to be the one that decides the game. Like, that's just crazy type of pressure and just crazy amount of poise for Samaya. So I was so impressed by her and what she was able to accomplish. So it's pretty exciting too to think, right? She's just a freshman and she can play for few more years at KU and can achieve a lot of things. So I think that's pretty cool as well.
Nobody covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than Michael Swain. He does so for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You can find him on Twitter as well, where his handle is @mswain247. And he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much. And we'll see you tonight at Allen Fieldhouse.
Awesome. Sounds great. See you guys tonight.
That is Michael Swain from Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. KU-BYU coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. We've got 45 minutes left of 580 Sports Talk, and we'll lead them off with our Sports Talk headlines coming up right after the national and local news. Hey now, it's the final hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on YouTube on our channel called 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That is Spencer Dupuis. We are here with you up until 5:45 today. That is when we are going to, for the first time this year, hop on the road to a championship, brought to you by Lewis Toyota. Sub-state basketball action coming up tonight. We start with 6A girls action as Washburn Rural hosts Wichita Northwest in the 5 versus 12 matchup for the 6A West. And then we will head to 5A West boys when Spencer will be on the call for Seaman versus Topeka West from the Charger Dome at Topeka West High School. All of that action can be heard right here tonight on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Coming up on this hour of 580 Sports Talk, this nearly full hour of the show anyway, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll preview KU versus BYU, get to a final word, and we'll take your comments on the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk again on YouTube. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. That is where you can find today's stream. You can go and you can follow our channel. You can subscribe to it. That is something we would really appreciate it if you haven't done so already. We'd be honored if you would go and subscribe to our channel, boost those numbers up a little bit. You can also find the video stream today on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk is where you can find us there, or on Facebook. Go to WIBW News on Facebook, and that is where you can find our YouTube stream, or our video stream, not on YouTube. You know what I'm saying. How excited are you for your first play-by-play? I think I heard you say earlier about 6 months since you last called a game.
Yeah, it was the first Friday of the football season.
Okay. So yeah, it's been a while.
First Friday. I'm trying. It's been 5-6 months.
Okay. It's gonna be fun.
I'm excited, but also like nervous.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I get nervous before games, and
but the nervousness
is
more of the fact that every time I've called a game in my entire career, except for like once in college, I've had the luxury of having a color analyst alongside me.
Sure. It's a new experience.
Yeah.
For sure. But, I mean, you've watched and called a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
I've got confidence in you. Plus, you're going to get a lot of fun storylines in this game. Going to be a blast.
It's just more of the trying to figure out the best time to take my breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's one of those things that
on the radio.
Yeah, you have to. You don't think about, like, you think, oh man, you guys get to be on the radio and call games, and you talk so fast, and you remember all these facts and stats. But yeah, that also means you have to remember to breathe, which is one of the things that should be basic but is not. And I know that I've been guilty of that many times in my career, thinking I can say all of these things and then running out of breath in the middle of it. So. No, it'll be fun. A lot of fun basketball coming up tonight. So it will be Dan and Larry Latimer on the call of the Washburn Rural girls game. As soon as they are done, we will throw it over to the Charger Dome, where Spencer will have the call of the remainder of the Seaman versus Topeka West boys game. So that will be a whole lot of fun coming up later on this evening. We will also have sub-state basketball action coming up on Thursday. Dan and Lat will be there for a doubleheader 3A boys action from Riley County. And then on Friday, we will have another doubleheader with Dan and Lat on one game and Spencer on another. So plenty of great games coming up over the next couple of days here on 580 WIBW. Tomorrow, I will not be on the show. I will be driving down to and calling games from Joplin, Missouri. Washburn in action. Final road game of the year for Washburn basketball, both the men and the women. Both teams will be back at home coming up on Saturday for the Turnpike Tussle rivalry game to cap off the regular season. By the way, and I'm going to say this on behalf of head coaches Brett Ballard and Laura Westling for the Washburn men and women, get to Lee Arena on Saturday. There is going to be some high-level, intense rivalry basketball. Washburn women have a lot to play for. The Washburn men have a lot to play for. So get out there coming up on Saturday to Lee Arena. Game 1 tips at 1, game 2 at 3 o'clock. And you can listen to those games as well, excuse me, on Country 106.9 coming up tomorrow from Mo Southern, and then coming up Saturday from at home at Lee Arena. All right, Spencer, let's get into it. Today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got a bevy of them from the National Football League. That's where we'll start. And I will rehash something that we talked about to lead off last hour. But we heard earlier today from Brett Veach. We heard earlier today from Andy Reid about what is going on with the team at the combine, expectations for the offseason, the draft, free agency, etc. And Brett Veach made it pretty clear that the franchise tag was going to be in not obvious, but a fairly likely outcome for L'Jarius Sneed. Then we heard this from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, who said, and I quote from Twitter, Chiefs have informed L'Jarius Sneed they are prepared to use the franchise tag and are open to consummate a trade off it if no long-term deal is reached. Sneed is agreeable to the scenario, giving him the chance to talk with other teams while Kansas City remains in play. So, in other words, they'll put the tag on him. They might trade him. They might keep him. Everybody wins one way or the other. The Chiefs either end up keeping a guy who should have been an all-pro this year at cornerback, or they end up getting a haul for him, multiple draft picks, and plenty of cap space available as well. I asked this to Dan earlier. Are you in the same boat? Because to me, the fact that this came out today and is phrased like this from Jeremy Fowler, I'm sure it's word for word what he heard from his source. Does this feel like it's more likely that a trade is coming? Because that's how it reads to me.
Yeah, I feel like too. And this is the week where not only do media members get to mingle with coaching staff, but also agents and like the whole scouting combine is when they're not at Lucas Oil Stadium, they're all hanging out at different restaurants and establishments.
Yep.
And they get things, they get info. A lot of deals get worked out there between GMs and agents. So I would venture to guess if he's hearing it this week, right now, it's probably likely true.
Yeah, I would like for the Chiefs to keep Sneed, but it fits with what the Chiefs do and the way they do their business, especially on defense. And there aren't many exceptions to that, save for, apparently, Chris Jones. But Chris Jones is a more unique player to me than L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed's really good. Really, really good. And again, should have been an all-pro. I'm just saying that you can find... I mean, it's hard to find shutdown corners, don't get me wrong, but the idea of a shutdown corner is still more common than interior pass rusher who can go get you 10-plus sacks a year. That's just not something you can find very easily. Sounds like maybe Chris Jones is priority one to get some sort of deal done. L'Jarius Sneed, they're going to let him go test the market through trades, and I wish every party here the best of luck. Sounds like the Chiefs are probably going to end up in at least a fairly decent situation one way or the other. So that is headline number one for me today from the NFL Scouting Combine. What's your first headline for today, Spencer?
The Bears. They will make a decision on starting quarterback, but they've already made their decision. I mean, the Bears are a case study this offseason. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to go for Caleb Williams, or are they going to trade the pick? And we're getting closer to the draft. We're getting closer to figuring out what they're going to do. And Ryan Poles says he has no master plan. So
I mean,
he wants to give out. He doesn't want to give out any information yet, even though he has the first pick in the draft.
I don't believe that for 1 second, for what it's worth. By the way, as of Sunday, we were 2 months from the draft. It runs the 25th through the 27th of April. So I guess we're exactly 2 months away from day 3 of the NFL draft. There's no way they keep Justin Fields. There is no way. Because
I don't like Justin Fields to me is not a great quarterback.
He stinks. He's not good. Like that is the thing that blows my freaking mind. And there's this cult on... Part of it is in national NFL media. Part of it is just among Bears fans. There is this group that refuses to listen. And there's no reason for me to be upset about this, because the best case scenario for me, someone who roots for the Bears' arch nemesis, the Packers, is for them to keep Justin Fields. I would love for them to keep Justin Fields. There's a reason they have lost 10 games in a row to Green Bay. They have not gone to the playoffs with Justin Fields as their quarterback. Their offense is the absolute dregs of the NFL, largely because of the guy they have at quarterback. Keep him. Please, Ryan Poles. Keep Justin Fields, because he's not a good quarterback. But there is this weird cult that refuses to drop it. He has never shown the ability to be a consistent drop back quarterback. And I know to some people, this sounds like a dog whistle, like the things that people have said for years that has been used to intentionally denigrate, black quarterbacks in particular. The Bill Polian stuff when he said, Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver, not a quarterback. That nonsense. I mean, that stuff is ridiculous. I'm speaking about the tape.
Yeah.
Okay. I am speaking about having watched a lot of NFL football, a lot of it, and watching a lot of Bears games because I know a lot of people that care about them. And I just try to watch as many games as I can, whether it's on Red Zone, whether it's the local game, watch it so I can talk to my dad about it, whatever. He can't pass. He is so incredibly slow. All the things people said when he was leaving Ohio State could hurt him in the NFL have hurt him in the NFL.
There were spurts last year. So obviously I paid more attention than I ever have to the Bears last year, especially when Fields was hurt because of their backup quarterback, Tyson Bagent. And I thought at times during games, Tyson looked better than Fields did at any point during the year when he played. I mean, the stats don't back it up. I mean, Tyson only threw 3 touchdowns, had 6 interceptions, and he had a 65.7 completion percentage. But I thought at times last year that when he was injured that they weren't even going to go back to him because Tyson was doing well, but they were still kind of fighting for an imaginary spot at that point. So they wanted to go with the guy they're paying and the guy that's their franchise.
The thing with Bagent is like Fields isn't an elite athlete. Like in terms of like athletic gifts, right there with Lamar Jackson. And he's bigger than Lamar. I mean, he might be one of one in that regard in terms of his physical athletic gifts. I'm not saying he's not a good athlete. He's just not a very good football player. Like Bagent, the problem with Tyson Bagent is he probably doesn't have the athletic gifts to be a long-term NFL quarterback. But in terms of like, hey, you need to throw the ball in rhythm, he could do that. Justin Fields can't do that. Like it's blowing my mind, the idea that the one of the worst teams in the NFL over the last 3 years would not try to get a new quarterback as they retool their entire coaching staff, add talent to their defense, add talent to the offense, that they would stick with the same guy who's never proven that he can be an NFL starter. It's crazy.
It's because they have a scapegoat. So this year the scapegoat was Luke Getsy.
Yeah. And Eberflus too. Yeah. Yeah. I hope the Bears keep Justin Fields. I do. I hope they do, because that is going to doom that franchise. I hope they keep him. I'm much more scared of Caleb Williams than I am of Justin Fields. Not even close. Not even remotely close. Elsewhere from around the NFL today, Spencer, how about this from the Baltimore Ravens? This is not surprising at all. Maybe you feel differently about it. I'm really not surprised. From Jamison Henley of ESPN, it does not look like the Baltimore Ravens will let Pro Bowl defensive tackle Justin Madubuike reach free agency. When asked at the NFL Combine Tuesday whether or not the Ravens would put the franchise tag on Madubuike if the sides can't reach a deal by March 5th, General Manager Eric DeCosta said, "I will probably say yes." That is a direct quote. The franchise tag for defensive tackles is $22.1 million. The Ravens have once before tagged a big man in the interior of their line. He was a pretty good one, Haloti Ngata. That dude was a monster. Justin Madubuike was fantastic this year. He was an all-pro. I don't remember if it was first or second team, but he was an all-pro. He was a Pro Bowler. He went for 13 sacks, maybe the best player on maybe the best defense in the NFL this year in Baltimore. At least is in the argument for being the best player on that defense this past season. He's only 26 years old. I said on the show, I might have been a couple of weeks ago now, but I told you and Dan, there was one guy, if you were going to let Chris Jones go, there was one guy slated to be a free agent who I would say I would feel like it's as close to 1-to-1 as you are going to get as a replacement. And that would be if you could go get Justin Madubuike, because I think those guys are better than Christian Wilkins. I think they're better than, I know Dexter Lawrence got an extension, but those are the guys we think of as those other good interior pass rushers. You're obviously not going to get Aaron Donald. I would say you could make it work if you were going to get Madubuike. Sounds like Baltimore is going to end up keeping him, and I don't blame them. Keep him somehow. Whatever you can do to keep a guy who's that good and that young, I think you have to do. This is why teams love the franchise tag, because you get this extended window to negotiate, or you just get essentially a free year. Yeah, it's costly, but if you're Baltimore, what would you rather do? Pay $22.1 million to one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, or have a bunch of cap space and not have an elite player at a position of major importance to your defense?
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty obvious decision to me. And simultaneously, it's why players hate the franchise tag. Because if you're mad at BK, you want to be able to go out there and say, I'm going to command the maximum amount of money I can go get. So it's a tough break for the players. He's going to get paid one way or the other, but it sounds like he is almost certainly going to stay with the Baltimore Ravens.
My next headline is actually, in a way, had something to do with the franchise tag. That would be Shaq Barrett. He had a franchise tag placed on him in 2020. Then he signed a massive extension the next year in 2021. Well, the Buccaneers are going to release him, and he'll be a cap casualty this off season. They're going to clear nearly $5 million in cap space.
Big. Minor technical difficulty. Continue.
They're going to clear about $5 million in cap space. He had a $15 million option bonus due next month. Another guy on the market, and he was halfway through a huge 4-year contract.
Shaq Barrett this past season for Tampa, even a good player in his career, started in Denver, won a Super Bowl as a rookie with the Broncos. One time was a second-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. I mean, he's had a good career. This year, played in 16 games, had 4.5 sacks. Like, that's just not... You don't keep a guy like that around when he's making as much money as he's been making. What is that contract?
I think it was 4 year, $72 million.
Okay, yeah. So this year,
$36 million guaranteed.
Yeah, he was set this year to have a $14 million cap hit. It looks like, according to Spotrac, he is going to be a post-June 1 cut, which means that's going to spread his cap hit out a little bit more over time. So they're going to have to eat a bunch of dead cap. But again, I made this comment, and I brought it up the other day on the show. The words of Eric Eager from Sumer Sports, we've had on the program many, many times before, said that it's not a perfectly even relationship between having a lot of cap space and having a little cap space. Said it's much more devastating to have no space than it is a positive thing to have a lot of space.
Yeah.
And if you've got a guy in Shaq Barrett who is not doing anything for you, yeah, it sucks to have to eat 20 some odd $1 million against the cap this year, but that's better than being stuck with $20 million however many millions of dollars for a player who's not good or who's not helping you. And maybe he is still good and he just had a down year. That's certainly possible too. But I do feel like this move at least makes some sense. I would probably at this point, and he's going to be 32 this coming season. I feel like you're probably going to end up, if you're another team, getting him on a deal where you just don't have to pay him a whole lot, and you probably don't play him a whole lot. Like, this to me feels like a guy who's going to enter the stage of his career, like a lot of guys have become, where he is just a situational 3rd and 6 or longer pass rusher. Like, he's going to play 25% of snaps, obvious passing situations. Just tell him, hey, you're going to do nothing but rush the passer.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're probably going to get some production out of him still.
Yeah, you'll probably get 5 to 8 sacks compared to the 4 that he had this year.
Yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. One other note here from the NFL. This isn't a major story. It's just worth bringing up. From the Las Vegas Raiders today, Tom Telesco, he formerly of the Chargers, now of the Raiders, when he was asked about the availability of Devontae Adams, there are a lot more rumors out there, considering, one of his best friends is the quarterback of the New York Jets. The Jets could use more receivers. The Raiders are bad. Devontae Adams is with the Raiders. Tom Telesco said, quote, he's a Raider. So that's about it. Adams himself said during Super Bowl week in an interview with ESPN that it was, quote, definitely exciting to work again with Luke Getsy, who he worked with in Green Bay. So Adams may be feeling a little bit better about his situation going on in Las Vegas right now as well. So one more quick note from the NFL and the Combine today. One other headline I wanted to make sure we got to. We've talked about this story a lot over time. How first of all, I think we've asked you before. Are you a golf guy? Like you like watching the big events, like the Sunday of a major, right? I think that's what you said. Have you paid a lot of attention to the Live Golf PGA Tour drama over the last 18 months or so?
A little bit. I think Rory McIlroy starting to change his vision. Is that what I'm?
He's definitely
is that part of it. Is like everyone's trying to.
I think
have a better outlook.
Yeah, he's softened a little bit. It's really calmed down for a while.
Yeah, it
because
has.
some of the majors were saying, yeah, we're going to allow everybody to play, even if they're Live Golf guys, et cetera, et cetera. Well, one professional golfer is essentially saying the Masters, the most important, biggest golf event of the year, is not really that big of a deal because they're not inviting everyone to play in this year's Masters. So this is from Taylor Gooch, professional golfer, jumped from the PGA Tour to Live Golf. He said that the ideas of basing majors eligibility on world golf rankings is antiquated. He said, because he isn't earning ranking points because he is in Live Golf, he has fallen all the way down to the number 449 spot in the world rankings because the world golf rankings do not recognize the Live Tour. So he said, not having the top players in the field only dilutes the results, saying, quote, if Rory McIlroy goes and completes his career Grand Slam without some of the best players in the world, there's just going to be an asterisk. It's just the reality. I think everybody wins whenever the majors figure out a way to get the best players in the world there. This is what we like to call FAFO. Bleep around, find out. If you don't like the rules, buddy, guess what? You didn't have to do this. You did this because they offered you millions and millions and millions of dollars. He had, in his first 2 seasons on the Live Golf Tour, this is from ESPN, from Field Level Media, made $46.5 million. Brother, if that was your goal, if your goal was to make more money than you know what to do with, then you did it. Congratulations. But own it. Admit it. Say, I did this for the money. This is the same problem I have had with Missouri since they left the Big 12 for the SEC all the way back in the first part of the 2010s. Own it. If you wanted to go for the exposure, for the money, for the ESPN contract, all of that, fine. Fine. I get it. I totally understand why you would want to do that. But you don't then get to complain about what you left behind, guys. You made that choice. Choices have consequences. Every action has a consequence that you make in your life, personal life, professional life. They have consequences. Live with them. Taylor Gooch, tough luck, buddy. You can complain all you want. You made this choice. You chose the money over the Masters, the majors, whatever. That is on you. Take ownership of it. Stop blaming other people for your personal shortcomings. Congrats on the money. That's clearly what you wanted to gain from this. Just be honest. Harold Varner III, the only guy who from the beginning said, look, brother, I did this for the money. They offered me a big-ass check, and I said, yeah. Good for him. At least he's not trying to play the moral high ground card. Give me a break. You made your choice, so live with it. I hate that. Stop blaming other people for your own decision-making. Sorry that you don't like the choice you made and you want to have your cake and eat it too. Give me a break. I'm done with my headlines for today. Anything else for you, Spencer?
No.
Let's get to a commercial break. I'm fired up. I'm going to cool down. When we come back, we're going to look ahead to KU versus BYU coming up tonight. That's coming up in just a moment as you're listening to 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW. 5:33 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Spencer here with you. Coming up in just a little bit, about 12 minutes from right now, we've got the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship here on 580 WIBW. We will send you out to the House of Blues, the Washburn Rural Activities Center, for Washburn Rural versus Wichita Northwest in girls action. Dan Lucero and the coach Larry Latimer will be on the call. Nothing beats postseason basketball. As soon as Washburn Rural is done, we will send you to the Charger Dome at Topeka West, where Spencer Dupuis will have the call for Topeka West versus Seaman. We will join that game in progress coming up a little bit later on in the evening. Also going on tonight in Lawrence, KU takes on BYU. The Jayhawks looking to pick up another win and I don't know that KU at this point really needs to do a whole lot to lock in a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Right now, the wide expectation is that KU gets one of those number 2 seeds. I'm looking at the bracket matrix right now. Pretty much everyone is in agreement on 3 of the number 1 seeds. Most people believe Arizona will be a 1 as well out of the Pac-12. North Carolina, Tennessee, Kansas, and Marquette are all pretty solidly on the 2 line. And again, that is from bracketologists all over the country putting in their thoughts for where everyone belongs right now. 107 brackets entered. Almost everybody has KU as a 2 seed at the moment. I said it earlier on in the show, and I really do believe this is true. All this comes down to is the 3-point line and what can KU do to try to run BYU off that 3-point line. It is going to be more difficult without Kevin McCullough, obviously. So you've got to rely on Nick Timberlake plus the freshman duo of Jabari McDowell and Elmarco Jackson to be really good defensively. If KU gets that done, though, KU should win. And I trust that KU's got the other 4 remaining starters who are among the very best in the country. That group of Adams and Harris and Dickinson. And why am I blanking on the 4th member of the starting group? Adams, Harris, Dickinson. Who am I missing?
KJ Adams, Dickinson. You're putting me on the spot here, too.
Why am I going blank on who the final member of KU starting 5 is? What is wrong with my brain right now?
Another junior.
Furphy. It's Furphy.
Oh, no, it's Furphy.
Yeah, it's Johnny Furphy. I don't know how I totally blanked on Furf Dog. As long as you get good performances from those guys and play respectable defense on the perimeter, you're going to be just fine. Shreyas Lahada, who covers KU for the Kansas City Star, had this stat, though, in his game preview today. BYU is 3rd in the country out of 362 teams. They score a preposterous 41.2% of their total points on 3-pointers. They score so many points on 3s. They shoot the ball well from deep. They're one of the most efficient offenses in the country. I believe, and I'll check this right now to double check, but I believe according to the KenPom numbers, BYU is currently 18th overall in the country, 9th in adjusted offense. That is nuts. That's about 121 points per 100 possessions. That's the kind of offensive pace they've been on this season. That is remarkable. That's the key to me. I think KU can score on BYU. BYU's not unbeatable with all those 3-pointers they shoot. They're certainly not. KU's got to play good defense on the 3-point arc, though. KU does that, they're going to win the game. That's my stance on the matter anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at this on paper and it's like, well, BYU just gonna, if they're gonna shoot the lights out of the ball from 3, not even shoot the lights out of the ball. I mean, Bill Self went over it yesterday during the press conference about the statistics of what you need in 33%, and they just don't shoot a lot of 3s at KU. That's not what the team is, and he said that, unfortunately, that might hurt them in this game.
Yeah, which gotta keep that in mind. And we heard about it with Michael Swain just earlier that, hey, I mean, it's just basic math that if you are shooting, you essentially need to hit 33, a third of your 3s to be able to equal what it takes if you're scoring on or making 50% of your 2-point shots.
Yeah.
Like it's just a very simple math equation at that point. I didn't phrase it very well, but you know what I mean? 3 points is more valuable than 2 points, obviously. So that's the key for KU in this game. KU handles that business, going to be just fine.
Like one of my favorite players of all time said, John Elmore, he said, why take a 2 when you can take a 3?
Why not? That's coming up at 7 o'clock, tip-off from Allen Fieldhouse. We've got to get to one more break. We got the final word coming up next, then we'll send you off to the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship here on 580 WIBW. Time to wrap up this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. If you missed any of the show, you can head to our website, 580WIBW.com. Go to the podcasts tab, click on 580 Sports Talk. That's where you can find the hour-by-hour breakdown of the show. You can also, of course, always go to our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Go back and rewatch any of the shows. Every single one we have ever done on video can be found right now on our YouTube channel, all the way back to Halloween of 2022. All right, Spencer, final word time.
What a day to start it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Final word. Women's basketball might not be the biggest thing in the country, but at Marshall right now is the biggest thing. First-year head coach, came from Division II, leading the team to an amazing mark so far. If they win tonight, they'll wrap up the conference with a game to go, and they're definitely going well, they have to win the conference, unfortunately, to go dancing, but they could be playing K-State.
How about that?
In Manhattan. That was one of the bracketologies a couple weeks ago, so that'd be exciting.
A little extra drama there. Final word for me today. I'll go with a quick two-parter. One, let's go Hawks. KU, I think, is going to get the win tonight. I am pretty confident in that. Also, there is nothing like postseason high school basketball in Kansas. I am so fired up about the next 2
That's
weeks.
also part of my final word. Excited for tonight.
Yes, very excited for tonight. I am super stoked that Spencer is going to get his first play-by-play action for us here coming up tonight from Seaman versus Topeka West at the Charger Dome. That's going to be a blast. Also will be a blast to listen to Dan and the coach on the call of Washburn Rural versus Wichita Northwest coming up here in just a couple minutes for pregame coverage. One of my favorite weeks of the entire year. Sub-state, you get to see these teams live out dreams, make it to the state tournament. It is all the best things about high school sports, and we're going to get to experience all of it coming up over the next few days. That's going to do it, though, on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up tomorrow, it'll just be Dan and Spencer with you. I will be on my way to Joplin, Missouri for Washburn Hoops, but they will recap the KU-BYU game. They'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald, more on the Kansas City Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed, and more. Plus, we'll recap some sub-state basketball as well. So until then, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I am Brendan Dworzinski. The guys will join you tomorrow. Coming up after this quick commercial break, we'll send you off to the House of Blues for the Lewis Toyota Road to a Championship.